Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of The Real Podcasters, the show where we talk all things film, TV and video games. They're usually entertained, they're usually ridiculed, basically it's however we feel each week. My name is Regan, I'm hosting this, shall we call, endeavour, as opposed to just calling it a podcast like most people would. And I'm joined by my horror fanatic co-host. He's the kind of person who, if it was possible, he would probably have like a little needle in his arm and he would just be drip-fed a load of horror films. His name's Dan, obviously.
Well, I can't exactly say... Oh, hello everybody, by the way. I can't exactly say that it was a needle. It was more like those, like, electric rod things, but it was just put in my brain straight away.
I was about to say, I was thinking of Hellraiser, so I mean, that kind of covers it.
Oh, yeah, you know, Pinhead just came along and just, you know, pins in me head. I mean...
Oh, Hellraiser.
I've definitely seen enough films that I wish I had pins in me head.
I agree. And especially after this week. Oh, boy.
Yes. So, episode 19. We are discussing...
Episode 19.
Well, we're going to be delving into Jurassic World Dominion. Spoilers.
Again.
Because, let's face it, it has been a pretty questionable film, I think me and Regan can say. Having seen it in cinemas.
Questionable doesn't even begin to cover it, quite frankly.
Obviously, we're going to be talking spoilers, so if you haven't seen it yet, we encourage you that you don't listen to it, because we are probably going to ridicule this thing pretty harshly.
Probably.
Okay, the probably just needs to be...
I'm literally ridiculing it in my head.
Probably needs to get like a cross through the probably and just definitely ridiculed.
There we go, that's better. But yes, spoilers for Jurassic World Dominion, that'll come a little bit later on because we like to like build this sort of thing up. As ever, we're of course talking about the stuff that we've been watching, and I think this is the first time in maybe, I'm just going to go with 19 episodes that I might have beaten Dan in regards to the amount of stuff I've watched this week, which I'm quite surprised at, but there we go. And as ever, we've got a whole bunch of news to talk about. We've got Ezra Miller being, well, Ezra Miller again. We've got Tom Hanks deciding to look back not so fondly on one of his older films, Knives Out 2, and a whole bunch of Doctor Who related stuff, but we're going to kick things off with some video game stuff because I keep on promising my good friend John that we'll talk more about video games, and here we are talking about video games-ish. So Xbox and Bethesda had their showcase event at the beginning of this week, essentially just showing off some of their big releases over the next year.
Yep.
I'm not going to go through all 30 plus because, yeah, I'd consider myself a gamer. There's not enough there that actually interests me. There was one or two, which I thought I'd touch on, but I know you haven't actually watched any of it, so this is more just you listening to me talk about a couple of video games.
Yep.
Which is usually how it works, isn't it?
Yep.
So, we'll kick things off with one that we already knew was a thing, or at least I knew was a thing. For me, I'm quite a big fan of the Forza Xbox Racing series. Well, I say I am. I tried playing the last one. I think I played it for about 20 minutes and then I kind of gave up, which made us quite sad.
How many actually is there now? Because, I mean, I know there's a lot of them, but I've kind of lost count of how many there are now.
It's now divided into two different sub-franchises. So you've got the main motorsport series, which is the one I'm going to talk about in a second.
Yeah.
So that's all like on tracks and stuff. It's all like, and then the other one is called Horizon, which is basically street racing. It's their version of Need for Speed, which I remember when that was initially announced, I thought that sounds utterly terrible. And yet somehow it completely beat every single Need for Speed for being like one of the best. That guy plays arguably way too much of Forza Horizon 4, which is the one that's set in the UK. And you can literally drive up to Edinburgh, and you can drive past, I think it's Bamborough as well, which I thought was quite funny.
Pretty cool.
I mean, yeah, you can't run over anyone because it isn't Grand Theft Auto, but you know. So there's been some more details about this new Forza Motorsport series. This is strictly for the current series of consoles, so like Xbox Series X and S. Probably PC as well. And it should be called Forza Motorsport 8, because it is the 8th one, but they're just dropping the number entirely, which I feel like a lot of things are doing these days, not just video games. Like we even got the news about, there's a new Paddington film coming out that's actually Paddington 3, but they're calling it Paddington in Peru because for some reason you can't really give it a number 3 because it makes it sound old.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. It's not just with games. It's like, I mean, look at Scream. Like rather than call it Scream 5, they just called it Scream. You know, or as you say, Paddington in Peru, not Paddington 3. They've just dropped the 3 and gave it an alternative title.
I will say, I mean, I still keep on saying to myself, I will watch Paddington at some point. I still haven't, and it's like, I think
you know what? I'm really itching to watch it, and well, you know, as a horror fanatic, you wouldn't really think I'd be interested in a talking bear with a raincoat and hat, but you know,
pretty scary to be honest. It should be, but yes. So there isn't like too much said on this Forza Motorsport thing. You did show off quite a bit of gameplay, which was quite nice because I do prefer. I really have like a really pet peeve with video game trailers where they don't actually show any gameplay. They just show like either like a cutscene or like a cinematic that's not actually the game.
Yes.
I can't remember if it was. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before when I mentioned about that new Alien game that was coming out.
Oh yeah.
And how
I saw the trailer for that, by the way, and yeah,
it's a game.
Yeah,
what we've got.
I mean, like it's not exactly promising anything. You've just shown me some like BS trailer, quite frankly.
Well, exactly, yeah. So I do appreciate the fact that we did get to see a little bit of gameplay. I'm curious as to how I feel on this because I haven't actually played one of the motorsport games since 4 in 2011. Mm-hmm. So I can remember that one being quite. I can remember getting that for my birthday, and I just played it immediately. And I think it was the first one where they had like a brand deal with Top Gear. So you got the Top Gear test track, you got a couple of the reasonably priced cars. I think you got the original one, like the Suzuki one or whatever, and then the Kia C''D, and immediately I just started driving around on that track with that, which I thought was quite fun. But yeah, so we know that one's coming out. I think it's the end of this year, but it's going to be coming straight to Xbox Game Pass, which quite a few things are now, which is quite.
I think that they've done that for a while. I think that's how they still maintain such a high membership thing. Lost for words there. Because obviously, like when a new game comes out, they're like, oh, you know, I think that's how they rival other things like PS4 and stuff like this because they put like the newest games on Game Pass, so like you don't have to pay like, I don't know, 50, 60 quid, which seems to be the price of games now. So they just put it straight on a thing.
Yeah. And
you pay what? I think it's $9.99 a month or something for Game Pass.
Yeah, I mean, I'm paying for the Ultimate one, so I think it's just over a tenner. I think, but it's something absolutely like worth it. Yeah. I mean, I'm not playing things constantly on Game Pass, but you know, there's enough there.
You get a big enough library, and plus whatever new games come out as well, they come straight to it on the day of release. So like, you don't have to break the bank. You can just play the game.
Well, I think even Halo Infinite came straight to Game Pass as well. I think last year. I would definitely like to talk about Halo at some point. That's definitely because we spent way too much time trying to go through those.
Oh, if only our audience could see the videos of what I've captured of you.
Oh, don't even go there, honestly. And the other one was Starfield. This is, I think the way that I looked at it is basically Skyrim in space. Also, it feels quite similar to No Man's Sky, which I quite liked, but it's not that fun to play anymore because there isn't really a story. You just keep on going from planet to planet, scanning a bunch of animals and rocks and shit, making up your own little encyclopedia of planets, and then you just keep on going.
So it's kind of just like a game that has no goal. You just kind of do.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, there was like a very vague storyline which I finished pretty quickly, and then you can either just continue on with a version of the story or just go on.
Do your own thing, yeah.
Yeah, but this is because this is from I would say it's from the people who did Skyrim, so that's Bethesda. This is their first new IP in, I think it's in like 25 years. Like everything else has been like Elder Scrolls or something else, which is always quite cool. Apparently it's going to have over 1,000 planets to fully explore. I'm saying fully explore in quotation marks because I don't believe that's going to be. Yeah. And there'll be a lot of character customization and all that sort of blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. Though they did mention that you're not going to be able to fly from planet to planet in the same way you can with No Man's Sky, because that one takes it quite literally, and like, oh, the planet's over there, but it's going to take 30, 40 seconds if you do like a speed boost thing. Otherwise, it's going to take many, many minutes, because that's how space works. I'm assuming with this, it's probably going to be closer to what it is in Lego Star Wars, where it's mostly just a cutscene, really, which I don't mind, to be honest, because I think even if you've got like 1,000 planets
Well,
to
I mean,
explore,
considering they're kind of preaching that they have like over 1,000 planets to explore, I think you don't really want to like sit in endless like things of pressing a button so you can speed up this planet. Like, I'd rather have a cutscene so I know that I can just delve into the exploration of this planet straight away, rather than having to spend like a couple of minutes. Like, yeah, a couple of minutes is a couple of minutes, but as he said, like thousands of planets, you don't really want to go from planet to planet and there's like a 2-minute interval you have to spend just getting to the planet, because you're going to end up pretty sick.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I think that's why I stopped with No Man's Sky. I kind of just got burnt out on it, just because it was just the same old routine. I mean, it was still fun, although it got to the point where I got so sick of the same planet. I was specifically, because they did like a reference to Dune, where you could find certain planets with a giant sandworm, and I just tried constantly to try and find a planet with that on. I couldn't. I just couldn't, because there's like 15 quintillion planets or something. I'm like, well, screw that. I'm not going to find one. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like, those are really like the only ones I can really think of. I think there's been a few others, but off the top of my head, those are the only ones that stuck out. So there we go. We've actually got some video game stuff to talk about. We can check that off the list for once. Now, Doctor Who news. We have a few. Well, one is an actual confirmation. The other one is still a bit of a rumour. We'll start with the rumour, because we're used to doing that now. So this was actually this was seen on Reddit a couple of weeks ago. It took us a while to actually get to it. Obviously, with us being as big fans of Doctor Who as we are, we of course watched Doctor Who Confidential quite a bit. I feel like a little bit too much.
Oh yes, definitely in the first few series. I'm gonna say definitely within the first few series.
I mean, like, it was a real shame when the BBC decided to cancel it to save money. Because like, that's just bollocks, frankly. So I mean, everything else they've done has been like Doctor Who Extra, and it's like 3 or 4 minutes on YouTube. That's about it. And now they've just kind of dropped it entirely. So, as I said, this is still like entirely a rumor. There's nothing actually confirmed yet. But it looks like that when the show comes back next year, we are going to be getting a version of Doctor Who Confidential. And in order to differentiate it, it's going to have a different name of Doctor Who Unleashed. Which sounds cringy as hell, if I'm completely honest.
A little bit. I mean, I can kind of see where the title comes in. You know, you're unleashing the behind the scenes of Doctor Who, but still.
Yeah. I think like the reason this rumor started dropping around is because, of course, there's been plenty of like on-set footage of them shooting the 60th anniversary things. And there's been a few instances of like David Tennant or Catherine Tate, and in particular Russell T Davies talking directly to another camera.
Oh hell, there was even, I don't know if you saw this, there was even like a rumour that Matt Smith was going to make an appearance in it, because somebody spotted him with the same haircut as he had when he played the Doctor and stuff like this. I'm like, this is getting out of hand now, these rumours.
And you think, and yeah, I saw that this morning, but I love the fact that people immediately assume that it's because he's coming back, which I feel like he could.
Maybe he just wanted a haircut, you know, consider that.
Well, here's the thing. But the actual image, it's just like a medium shot of like his chest up, and he's got like the hair back. But then if you get the full image, he's literally coming back from the shops.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm like, Whovians on the internet are just so desperate for anything at this point. Just like, I mean, look, I think he could come back. I want him to, but depending on how they do the 60th, I don't know how they could.
I think the future of it's going to kind of rely on the 60th. Like, I mean, hell, there's been loads of photos of it, hasn't there? I mean, you know, I must see like a couple of new set photos every few days pop up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, so this Doctor Who Unleashed thing, it's probably going to be broadcast on BBC Three, because that's back on Freeview and stuff like that now. And well, the other bit of Doctor Who news, actual confirmation. we have Neil Patrick Harris, who's been cast in the 60th. Referenced by Russell T Davies as playing the greatest enemy the Doctor has ever faced. I'm like, wow.
Well, I mean,
Who's
they've
that
said
gonna
that many of times, and that's either A, Cybermen, Daleks, or the Master. Or anything else for
I don't
that
think
matter.
it's any of them. I was about to say, I'm pretty adamant I know who it is. And I think other people have picked up on it as well, especially with more recent set photos that have come out. I think plenty of us have actually theorised he's not playing the Master. He's actually playing a new version of the Celestial Toymaker from the William Hartnell era.
Fair. Okay, that's interesting.
Well, because there was that image that was released initially when they announced him, and he's got like the glasses and he's got like the apron and stuff on.
Oh
him.
yes, I did see that. Yes.
Now, granted, the more recent set photos don't have that at all. Like he's got like a suit on and everything with like a top hat. But then there's a toy shop that's been built. There's like a circus poster somewhere as well that looks like it's got him on. And then people immediately thought, oh, he could be playing that. They even referenced the Celestial Toymaker, I think, in one of the more recent episodes of the show, which doesn't count, because and that's me being generous with but it does actually look like he's going to be playing him. Which, look, I can't say as to whether or not that's a good idea, because you can't actually watch the episode, because it's gone.
Yeah,
it's missing.
It's gone.
I mean, there is one random clip that's on YouTube. I think it's on the proper Doctor Who YouTube channel. I think it's like the only surviving clip.
Because I know that there's
more of it.
There's when they find it, they just like animate it, obviously because the footage has been lost and stuff. So they must just go through it and then create some animation for it. Because I think some of the Patrick Troughton ones that I watched had a few of those in because some of the parts were missing, and there was definitely some William Hartnell ones as well.
Oh yeah, William Hartnell, I think the only one I can think of off the top of my head was The 10th Planet.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that was missing.
Yeah.
But though they did have the regeneration scene still intact, because I think it was used on Blue Peter or something like that. But Troughton had loads that were...
very like hit and miss. It's like you could get a part that was fine, and then the next minute, like, it's just animated. It's like, oh goodness, you know what? Mm-hmm. This is a bit of a shame, but at least they kind of put it back together rather than just let it be lost forever and ever and ever, even if it is just animated.
Well, exactly,
but
yeah. There's also we spoke about this when the 60th started to get filmed a couple of weeks ago, and I mentioned how there's a rumor going around that Tennant wasn't going to be there for one episode; he was going to be there for at least 3.
Yep.
That actually looks like it's genuine. There was an image of one of the clapperboards being used, and it's listed. It's got a different director attached to this particular one, and it's listed as episode 3.
Okay.
So it looks like he's so. Granted, we haven't seen an episode 2 yet, and I think people immediately went into speculation overdrive, especially after the Matt Smith thing. That in reality they're filming episode 2 somewhere else with Matt Smith and potentially Peter Capaldi. I'm like, we'll know about it when we see it. Yes, it's fun to speculate, but I'm not going to go completely nuts like, oh, well, he's cut his hair. That means
I think there's a difference between...
No, it doesn't.
...sensibly speculating and just going absolutely overboard with it as they have now, the whole thing with Matt Smith. He came back from the shops and people literally cropped the image to think, oh, he's got a haircut. Does that mean he's coming back as the Doctor? Well, no.
Yeah.
He's just back from the shops.
No.
He's probably getting like a glass of, he's probably getting like a carton of milk or something, he has no intention yet. We don't know this until we actually see it.
Or he is going to do it and he's just bought a lot of alcohol to just drown it all away, and he's just going to play the Doctor completely hammered. Which I figured he already did anyway, because he was all very like floppy and stuff like that. Not floppy, that's definitely the wrong word to be using.
He was very wobbly.
I'll think of a different word later.
Wobbly.
There you go, wobbly, yes. As opposed to floppy. But yeah, it's still annoying though that we're getting all these details about the episode, and again, we've still got one more with Jodie, and there's just nothing. But I think I'd read somewhere that one's potentially getting released maybe like last week of October or something. I'm like, yay? Do you want to do some better stuff with advertising. Like, it's literally your biggest show. Could you please act like it is?
Yeah.
As opposed to feeling more like an afterthought at this rate. But you know, we can complain about Doctor Who later on in life, because we'll be dealing with that era in, I'm going to say a few months, because it is literally in a few months. But yeah, that's all I've got for Doctor Who wise. Did you watch Knives Out? Please tell me you've seen Knives Out.
No, it is on the watch list though. It is on my watch list. I will get to it eventually. But yes,
Okay,
I'm aware of
I'll
Knives
make
Out
this
too.
one quick.
I'm aware of that.
Have a bit of drink. Yes, so this one's now actually got a title. It's now titled Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery.
Glass Onion.
Glass Onion.
Certainly a fetching title.
I love how vague it is. I'm like, unless it's being literal, and like the very first shot is of like is like a glass sculpture of like an onion. But I think that's a little bit too on the nose. But yeah, I mean Knives Out I absolutely adored. I think it was like one of the best films of 2019. And you know, there's plenty of other people who think otherwise, purely because it's directed by Rian Johnson. I'm like, he has made other films beyond Star Wars, you know. He's actually made quite a few. They're all really good. Probably. I've seen one other. But honestly, you just need to see it for Daniel Craig.
Yeah, I think
is
one of the main reasons why I wanted to watch
it.
Like, obviously because he's in it, and I know him from the Bond films and stuff like this. So, and I've heard it's an enjoyable film. Oh yeah, did you not know this?
No, I didn't.
No, you wouldn't think. Ugh.
No. But yeah, I found it thoroughly amazing. And this one comes out at the end of this year, and this is part of a big deal that Netflix did, where they bought the rights to this and a third Knives Out, for like a couple of $100 million, I think it was. And I was like, you're putting that much on it, like bloody hell. And you know, these aren't like big franchise blockbusters; they're literally detective mystery comedy-ish things.
Yeah.
I'd go with comedy because it's pretty hilarious. But yeah, this one's out at the end of the year. You've got Daniel Craig back. Also got a new cast such as Edward Norton, the Hulk's in this. Catherine Hahn, who I think I only know her from WandaVision, I think. Leslie Odom Jr., who was in the previous one. Jessica Henwick, who I think popped up in the last Matrix film. I've got no idea. I still haven't watched the damn thing. You've got Drax himself, Dave Bautista, which I find even more funny considering that it's Daniel Craig and Dave Bautista in a film again.
Do you know what? It's so funny when I obviously I saw Dave Bautista in Spectre. It's just so weird when you've watched Guardians of the Galaxy as many times as I have, and then like you look at Dave Bautista normally and you just can't help but think of Drax sometimes. Like you just sort of pray he comes out with some silly little one-liner.
Oh yeah, and I mean, look, I actually really like when he does like more like serious roles. I think that was actually one of the biggest praises I gave at Army of the Dead last year, whereas I actually appreciate that he's actually not a comedic kind of thing in this.
He's not some weird comedic alien.
Yeah, which unfortunately was like one of the only praises I could give Army of the Dead, but you know. But yeah, as I said, this is out at the end of the year. Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. Next up, we've got some more details on Joker 2. I love the fact that when we referenced this I don't know if it was last week or the week before.
Last week.
I said something along the lines of, it was actually last week, okay.
Yeah.
And I'd said something along the lines of, if you're going to do a sequel to Joker, you need to change it up entirely. So when they announce it's going to be a musical, I'm like, yeah, you've actually done it, well done. Because I'd rather it be like a swing and a miss, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say it's going to be a miss because it's a musical, but actually I think that's not a terrible idea. Especially when you've got Lady Gaga apparently going to be in it.
You're welcome.
I also find it's quite funny. Yeah. Thank you. So, as I say, we still don't know too much. I don't even think Lady Gaga's officially been cast, but considering this came out with the Hollywood Reporter...
No, it's more of a it's more of a little rumour kind of thing. But again, we're going to mention it just because it seems, well, it's to do with Joker, and we're pretty big fans of Joker, so...
Yeah, I mean, to a point. Obviously, the big question is then, if Lady Gaga's in this, is she playing a version of Harley Quinn?
Yep.
Because I'm going to immediately say yes.
Yes, she's reportedly going to be playing Harley Quinn.
Which is annoying because while I don't like everything in the current DC universe, one bit of casting I do really
Margot
like
Robbie.
is Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn.
I loved her. Great. She's brilliant. She's brilliant as Harley Quinn. Like, Suicide Squad, yes, it's an absolutely terrible film. She's probably the only highlight of the film, in truthfulness. Birds of Prey, she's brilliant in, and the Suicide Squad, she's amazing in that, and I love the Suicide Squad. It's an absolutely fab film.
Yeah. Though I feel like they're doing this now because I think she mentioned just after the releases of the Suicide Squad that she was going to be taking a break from the character because she's kind of done Birds of Prey and then the Suicide Squad basically back to back.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of Harley Quinn in the span of like a year. So I think she thought, I'm gonna give it like a little bit. So I think they're using this to their advantage. Like, oh, okay, well, we'll do a new version. Which, I mean, yeah, fine. I mean, I think Lady Gaga actually has proven that she is actually a pretty good actress. Like, I quite like her.
She was an American Horror Story in a series called Hotel, and she plays a vampiress, and she was pretty good. She is quite a. I think when she's given the right role, she's solid.
Yeah, I mean, I watched her in...
Because she's very... the way she was portrayed as like the seductive countess, which is, with vampire stuff, that is what you'd expect with like Brides of Dracula and Dracula's Brides, that kind of thing. So, I kind of hope that it comes true, because I think she'd be pretty good.
Hopefully. I mean, because I'd seen her in the remake of A Star Is Born a couple of years ago with Bradley Cooper, and she was great in that. Like, I actually forgot how good... I mean, I'm not going to say I forgot how good of a singer she is, but I don't listen to, like, modern pop and stuff like that anymore. But I did...
Don't lie, it's one of your favourite songs.
Which one? But I had actually forgotten that she was actually a good singer, and she's great in that one. So, her doing this... I'm quite interested. It's also quite funny that Star Is Born remake. Would you like to know who produced that?
Who did it?
Todd Phillips.
Coincidence?
I think not. But yeah, I mean, was there a release date for this thing? Was it like 2024 or something that I think someone had said?
Yeah, it was 2024. I don't think it said when in 2024. It was just 2024.
But yeah, so we've got some details on Joker. We've also got some stuff on Tom Hanks. Soft-spoken and an all-round lovely human being. I think like we all love Tom Hanks. He randomly started talking about the... did you watch any of those Da Vinci Code films that he did like years ago?
No, and I still need to actually watch the Da Vinci Code now that you've mentioned it. I have a lot to catch up on.
I mean, I wouldn't, to be honest. Like,
really?
I thought it was like... I thought it was complete nonsense. Well, here's the thing. I can't remember which one I watched. It's whichever one had Ewan McGregor in it. It's either one or two. It's definitely not Inferno, because if I know it, Inferno was rubbish.
I mean, I haven't seen it, but I'm probably guessing the first one. I feel like he would be in something as big as that to first start off with.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tom Hanks he hasn't outright trashed it. I have got the title as listed as him trashing the films. He doesn't really trash it, but it's probably the closest that I think I've seen of an actor of his caliber actively talking out against like one of his older films.
Right.
So I've got a quote in regards to those films. Yeah, those Robert Langdon sequels are hooey.
Hooey.
Yeah, hooey. I mean... Author Dan Brown, God bless him, says, "Here is a sculpture in a place in Paris. No, it's way over there. See how a cross is formed on a map? Well, sort of a cross. Those are delightful scavenger hunts that are about as accurate to history as the James Bond movies are to espionage. All we were doing is promising a diversion."
Well,
that's like the most polite way of saying I thought they were rubbish.
It's like saying James Bond films portray espionage. Okay, I quite like that.
I mean, they are the most accurate form of espionage ever put to film. What on earth is it
look at Moonraker,
he has no idea
man.
what he's talking about.
Look at Moonraker with Roger Moore. I mean, that is
I don't
clearly...
want to look at Moonraker. Star Wars. No, it's not Star Wars. It is absolutely Star Wars. It is a Bond version of Star Wars.
Well, they only made it because of the success of Star Wars. They just wanted to put James Bond in space because of Star Wars. That is basically it. And it shows it.
And it's funny how that's like kind of the mindset of people in the 70s or the 80s, and Hollywood hasn't changed.
No.
They still do that.
It's like, what do we do now?
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, exactly.
We send a British spy, James Bond, into space.
Ooh. I mean, I'm waiting for them to do that with the Mission Impossible films. I'm adamant.
It will happen.
Next one.
It will happen.
One will be in space. I mean, though technically, Fast and Furious already beat them to the punch, because the last one was set a little bit in space, but they weren't actually in space, so it doesn't actually count. Tom Cruise would absolutely end up in space. Put Tom Hanks in space. I would rather have Tom Hanks in space. That would be quite funny. Yeah, I just thought this entire news story was kind of funny because you don't really get this sort of admission about older films from actors that much, especially someone like Tom Hanks, who, as I say, is just absolutely lovely. He's a lovely person. But yeah, I thought it was quite funny. Final bit of news that isn't funny, it's just... it never ends. We now have the Ezra Miller saga continuing, even though it should have ended weeks ago.
The Ezra Miller saga. You're making this... You know what it is? It may as well be a franchise considering the amount of trouble this guy just seems to get into lately.
Yeah, so I don't think I really need to catch anyone up on what was happening prior. What I will say now is that they've now been accused of being not particularly friendly towards an 18-year-old girl, which includes brainwashing, apparently. They've now disappeared from all forms of social media, and the police are trying to find them. So, Deadline Hollywood put out a news story about us, which was mostly in regards to what the hell is Warner Brothers actually going to do?
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of just sitting back at the minute. I haven't seen anything. I mean, with regards to the first incident, I mean, you would have thought they would have stepped in there and then, but they obviously haven't, which is a bit weird. Well, it's a bit shocking, really, considering the reputation that they have behind them. You'd think that a studio like that and its reputation and its filmography, they would step in and solve the situation as quickly as possible before things spiraled out of hand. And look what has happened. Things have spiraled.
You think they do that, and then all the stuff with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard start happening, and look how that's turned out.
Yep.
But yeah, so Deadline was saying this, they'd heard the studio has tried getting help for Miller, but the troubling headlines continue to pile up. Could you send a potential liability on a global publicity tour and have the actor anchor a huge studio franchise player? I'm going to go with no. So the CEO of Warner Brothers, David Zaslav, I believe he's one of the new ones that we mentioned a few weeks ago when there was a big rejig around, has several choices and he will make one of them soon. Among them, he can pull back on heavily promoting the summer 2023 film, confining it to some PA and no publicity tour.
Yeah.
So basically just send it out to die. Or you can do the other version of send it out to die, relegate it to streaming with HBO Max and take a write down on the film. Or lean in towards making the film a big hit and then just drop Miller if they can't straighten things out. This was supposed to be a discussion on which one are they actually going to go for, because none of them help, because the film is still going to have to be released.
Yeah.
Just full stop. It can't be.
They can't exactly pull it now. They can't pull it now because then all that cash has just gone to waste.
And there's still plenty. We mentioned this when the whole Ezra Miller thing started going on. People have been talking about how, you could just reshoot the film and just drop Miller out. It's no, you can't. His superhero title is literally in the title of the film. He's going to be in virtually every single scene, and there's another version of him that's in it.
Yep.
You can't do that. You can, but it's going to cost an absolute fortune. And if it's already $200 million, you're going to have to do another $200 million, I'd say. And then you'd have to hope the film makes nearly $1 billion. And I'm sorry, but the amount of like controversy surrounding this film, it's not making $1 billion. This one's absolutely going to bomb, I think, which is annoying because when you've got like you've got potentially a more comic book accurate version of Supergirl that's in this, which I'm absolutely for.
Yeah,
like she looks awesome. Like even the costume looks amazing.
Yeah, I saw the costume of it, and it has a much better comic resemblance compared to what it has been.
And then at the same time, you do have Michael Keaton back as Batman.
Oh,
which I still don't. I don't know where I stand on that. Really, it feels like they're trying really desperately to be like, well, we could do Spider-Man No Way Home.
I'm still puzzled why they've got Michael Keaton back. But I mean, you do you. Well, surprise me.
Well, here's the thing. Here's your options. You can't go with Adam West for obvious reasons. You can't go with Val Kilmer for obvious reasons. George Clooney would probably kill someone. Probably already has. Christian Bale is currently killing a load of gods in Thor. And Ben Affleck has been sort of carted out one more time with the vague promise of, we'll actually make us a good version of you. And Robert Bat is just non-existent in this universe, so you haven't really got anything else.
He's hiding in a cave somewhere away from this universe.
I still maintain you should have got Kevin Conroy, because he's already played a live-action version of Batman. In that, when the CW did the Crisis on Infinite Earths thing, and I think he's the version from the Kingdom Come comic, when he's got like a metal like brace on and everything, because he's broken every bone in his body, or something like that. But honestly, just hearing his voice in live action when he says he's Batman, I'm just like, I could die happy. He sounds so good.
I can die.
Yeah. I mean, in regards to what they could do, I mean, yeah, you could say just drop it straight to streaming, but because they probably assume that not many people are going to watch it. Like, as far as I know, HBO Max isn't particularly popular. Like, even when Zack Snyder's Justice League dropped, the numbers compared to that with, say, the Suicide Squad were radically different. Like, Suicide Squad got far more.
Yeah.
So you could easily put it to HBO Max and it would absolutely bomb and no one would watch it. Or you could still reshoot a little bit. Even just add something onto the end where you could tease the potential of the Flash continuing, but under a different face. But I think in reality, there's no easy way to fix this.
No.
And I dread any publicity or because I can guarantee the very first proper trailer that they do is going to feature Ezra Miller so briefly because they're going to have to. Probably the thumbnail's going to have Supergirl on and probably Batman. And it's going to just be like, The Flash, Batman, Supergirl. It's them, actually. As I say,
Flash Girl.
Flash Girl.
Flash Girl.
No. Don't be calling it that. That sounds horrible.
No, that does
sound
pretty bad. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think they've got to do something. I mean, considering the money they've put behind it, like, if they just sit on their asses now, like, you're just asking for it to... Look, I think we can assume that this isn't going to do billions of dollars in box office or anything like that, but, like, for God's sake, you want to make some of it back.
I mean, I've already said in the past, this is, like, one of the few ones that I have no interest in at all. And now I have even less interest.
I think my interest in it was somewhat... Well, maybe, but now it's just like... Can I really be bothered with everything that's surrounding it? I really don't think I can.
Well, that's the thing, because even with Fantastic Beasts, even watching that with Ezra Miller, and it was rubbish, because he's rubbish in it. It's like, he's not, like, he doesn't have any, like, leading man sort of stuff with him. He's just sort of there. So I've got no anticipation for him having to lead a film. I guess we'll see next year, if and when this thing actually gets released. Again, just the irony of the fastest man alive in this film is just not going to work at all.
This film has been delayed like countless times, you know. It's not Flash, it's Snail at this point.
which is ironic because I'm fairly certain, isn't it like a DreamWorks animated film about like a whole load of snails that do like racing and stuff?
Probably.
Isn't it called Turbo or something?
Yeah, I think I'm
Probably
pretty
is.
sure it's called Turbo. That rings a bell.
It's probably already a better film than The Flash.
Yeah.
But there you go. That is the news. Fair amount of stuff to talk about. Now it is time to once again move forward to our critically acclaimed segments. If only I actually had the jingle that I decided to come up with a couple of weeks ago, like on like standby, where it's just like, "What shit has Dan been watching?" or something like that. I've completely forgotten what the hell I even said in that one. So,
No, we always think of a new one every time. But yes, I remember it was What Shit Has Dan Been Watching?
Yeah. So Dan, what shit have you been watching?
Well, considerably less than you, I can say that. So,
Finally.
Monday, as mentioned in the previous episode, Regan saw the new Jurassic World Dominion before me. I saw it on the Monday. What to really say about this? I'm just going to say this. Sequels find a way to disappoint.
Really? I'm really surprised. I fully expected you to think that this film was fucking amazing.
Well,
Or some shit like that.
we're going to obviously talk about this more in our final segment of it, the spoilers of
definitely.
Dominion. But I will say that I didn't exactly expect anything massive out of this, considering what Fallen Kingdom was. I was expecting somewhat better, but in reality, it's just worse. And I'm pretty livid for it because I love dinosaurs, and they've taken everything that made Jurassic Park and arguably Jurassic World good, and they've just run it through a shredder, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay. It's definitely not the worst thing I've ever seen. I think Fallen Kingdom... I'm probably just going to have to rewatch the entire World trilogy again just to actually revisit it and see how I feel, because I haven't seen World or Fallen Kingdom in quite a long time, and seeing Dominion, I'm just unsure of where I stand in this franchise anymore. Because what has this franchise become now is the better question.
Shit.
Yeah, I suppose you could say that.
Is that...
Next up was Spree. That was on Tuesday. This stars David Arquette, who, well, I know, plays Dewey in Scream. This film is essentially just about a kid who takes to social media killing people for views, more or less, and it's all about like trying to get attention on social media and things like this, so it's pretty relatable in today's society. We do stupid things for attention on the web, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, I must say. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It has some pretty funny moments, and obviously David Arquette as well. He plays this father, and he's just so like unaware of what is going on, and it's full fun. Like when you see Scream and you see how he progresses as a character throughout sort of 2, 3, and 4, it's sort of like that. So it's good. It's on Netflix if you're interested in watching it, audience. It is. I'd recommend it. Give stamp of approval for that.
It actually is. I'm fair to say it actually is on my watch list as well.
It is really good. It is really good, and I didn't expect it to be, because there's a lot of like sort of not like found footage stuff, but there's very like improvised camera stuff, I will say. And usually stuff like that puts me off, but I liked it. Oh boy. One of the many weird and not so good things that I've watched. The Incredible Hulk from 2008.
I mean, we can say this, it isn't actually like the worst.
It's definitely
MCU
not
film.
the worst. But my god, the romance between Betty and Banner is just so cringy at times. Ugh.
What are you talking about? It's absolutely beautiful.
Like, look, I love Abomination and that. I think it's cool. The story and that's cool. The romance is just... It is literally like Attack of the Clones and just a bad romance. It is literally just that.
Yeah.
The romance really brings the film down, and I just thought, for God's sake, please. Next up was Willy's Wonderland from 2021. This stars Nick Cage, and he is a mute.
Oh, yeah.
There is nothing to really say about this film. I thought it was absolutely crap, because I expected
really?
it to be really scary, because the plot of it basically is that Nick Cage takes on a job when he can't afford to pay for the repair on his car because he doesn't have any cash on him, so they employ him as a sort of a janitor in this abandoned restaurant that features animatronics. The animatronics are possessed by devil worshippers. It could have been scary, but instead they turn it into some silly comedy, and it's just daft. And I hated it because of how stupid it made it. Like, it's not the worst thing I've watched, but there's no explanation into why Nicolas Cage does certain things in the film. Like, there are sequences where he just stops what he's doing, goes to the rec room, drinks these, like, weird cans of pop and plays pinball, and he doesn't talk. There is no, like, explanation why he does these things. It's just there. Like, there's no... It's like, what is going on? But... It actually looked really scary, and I thought, oh, this is like some live-action Five Nights at Freddy's stuff going on here. But it's not. It's probably the furthest thing from it in all reality, which was a bit bummer because I haven't seen anything decent enough like that. You know, like animatronic horrors, like, you don't really see many of them, especially good ones, and this is definitely isn't one of the good ones. Miss Marvel Episode 2, so this is Wednesday now. I still don't know how I feel. I enjoy it, but as we previously mentioned, the whole Edgar Wright thing with the writing and stuff, like the bubbles and things, difference between paying tribute and, you know, kind of...
I will say this about it. This Ms. Marvel Episode 2 isn't on what I've been watching this week, because I watched the first 10 minutes and I just gave up.
Oh.
I was like, this really...
I take it you're not a fan then. Oh dear.
Well, I mean, I wasn't big on the first one, like, at all, and this one is just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about anything that's going on. I mean, I could easily be in the minority, and I know that in some, you know, if we had like a bigger fan base, I'm sure that there'd be people in the comments going, how like, oh, I'm a, you know, whatever, purely because I dislike it. I mean, what can I say? I'm not gonna lie. That being said, I've heard plenty of people talk absolutely like lovely about it, which, you know, that's great, because I'd rather I be in the minority than me be in the majority where everyone dislikes it. I think that would be a bit rubbish.
Yeah, I mean, I like it, but it's definitely not as enjoyable as the previous miniseries. I think this is just sort of one of the more unserious ones, which I get they have to do that, you know, they have to bring some unseriousness into the Marvel stuff every now and again. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I mean, this is only episode 2, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I wouldn't say it's exactly my favourite one, but, you know, what can you do? So, Speaking of series, Obi-Wan Kenobi Part 5. I'm just going to come out and say it. This is starting to become a bit rinse and repeat.
Ooh, you started out a little bit more negatively than I was expecting.
Yep.
Ooh.
Well, it's literally like Obi-Wan Kenobi finds Vader, or Vader finds him, Leia gets kidnapped or something. It's just starting to become rinse and repeat, and I really, really don't want it to be. And considering we've only got one episode left, I don't want them to just make it every single episode where, you know, the third sister comes in, she kidnaps Leia, Obi-Wan has to go rescue her. It's just the same thing over and over, and it's starting to hack me off. I've waited for this for so long, and they just push me under the rug with this. How dare you?
Yeah.
But look, I like it. I liked it. I definitely prefer the previous episode to it, because this one just felt a bit rinse and repeaty. But I guess we're going to see what this 6th one brings. Apparently, it's meant to be pretty long as well. There's been sort of rumours around saying that it's going to be the sort of length of a feature film, like an hour and a bit. Yeah. Whether that's true,
I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, whether that's true or not, we don't know, but I guess we'll find out next Wednesday. Now, 5 Scream 2022. This was $1.99 on Amazon Prime, so I thought, hell, why not? I haven't seen it in a while. Still enjoy it. It's definitely, I think it's my 3rd favourite, maybe 2nd in the Scream franchise. I think it's 3rd. I'm pretty sure it's 3rd. Because, I mean, you're never going to beat the first one. The first one's just classic. There's no doubt about it.
And there's me who's biased, who legitimately thought that...
Yeah, who you think is actually the best one, which is very strange but curious.
Which, in fairness, I mean, like, still, number 2 is still the first one. I mean, like, it's damn near close, but my God, did I have fun with it. Oh, it's so much fun.
I think it's probably my favourite horror franchise, like, as an overall, because it just fit into each other so well. Like, they don't drift off like every other franchise does. Like, it's like, okay, we've run out of ideas, we're just going to come up with some BS storyline, you know. But they all interconnect to each other, and I love it. You know, there's even, like, references from, like, Scream 4 into the new one. It's like, oh, you know, the last time Ghostface was here was in 2011, the release of Scream 4. So, you know, it all interconnects into each other. So they know what they're doing with that franchise. Now, Thursday, Mad Max 2. The Road Warrior, or Warrior of the Road, or something like that.
Oh, yes, the Mad Max ones.
Definitely my favourite Mad Max film so far.
Oh, okay.
This was so much better than the first one because it actually feels like a Mad Max film. It is clearly apocalyptic. The whole search for gasoline, or juice, or many other names for gasoline that the characters call it. It's so fun. I had such a fun time with it. And leading on from that was a horror film on Shudder, pretty unknown, called Husk. It's from 2011. It's a scarecrow horror film. It's sort of a bit of paranormal in there as well. Definitely not the worst scarecrow film I've seen, but nothing brilliant. It was good. Nothing superb, though. Now, here's the worst thing I've watched this week. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really didn't like it. They took everything that, to me, made Mad Max so special was like the whole apocalypse thing, and it's just Mad Max and a bunch of kids just going to take over some town because you got kicked out of it. That is literally the point of it. It's and Tina Turner's in it, and Tina Turner is the villain. I don't know why we keep casting like singers as villains and stuff like this.
I was about to say, she's a freaking singer, not an actress.
They did it in bloody James Bond with Grace Jones, and look how that turned out. Some people are just meant to be singers and not actresses. Look, she's okay for the most part, but I didn't like the film, and I'm probably in the minority there because it seems to be a film people quite enjoy. I really didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
Thought it was pretty naff. Friday, now, I didn't exactly watch anything feature film related, I just watched a bunch of shorts. So the first one was Quietus from 2018. This was a horror film. This was part of Random Acts on Channel 4. The thing I mentioned last week, but I could not remember the name of it, is a channel called Random Acts, and they have a load of short films and they have a variety of genres. Definitely worth checking out because some of them are very, very creative and very well done, despite only being like 3 or 4 minutes long, and somehow they're better than most feature films. Now, When Voices Unite, again, this is a short film from Random Acts, another horror film for 2017. Now, have you seen a horror film called Suspiria? Or Suspiria, or however you pronounce it?
I've got it upstairs. I've had it for a couple of years, but I've never watched it yet.
So,
I want to.
I discovered a short film on a YouTube channel called Social House Films, which is an independent production studio in America somewhere. I can't remember exactly where, but they make short films primarily. This is called The Ballerina, and it is basically just a very short idea of Suspiria with the whole ballerina thing. It's pretty creepy. The only thing that brings it down is a bit of a naff effect, but as a short film, I wouldn't exactly expect like Michael Bay styled effects on it. You know, I wouldn't. Well, I say Michael Bay. That's probably just insulting it because let's face it, his effects aren't brilliant.
To go with, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Okay, we're gonna say better CGI then. Okay, like you wouldn't expect like multi-million CGI in like a 3-minute short film because what would be the point? But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'd recommend checking them out. If you don't have anything, well, you can't think of anything to watch, because I couldn't think of anything to watch after watching the disappointment that was Beyond Thunderdome. So I thought, can I really be asked to sit through another feature film after watching this smut?
Yeah.
So I just went to YouTube and just looked at a bunch of short horror films to brighten my mood up after watching a disappointing entry. And I will be watching Fury Road at some point as well, because I've seen all the Mad Maxes, and I'm just going to revisit Fury Road and just see where I stand with the franchise. I think it's probably going to be second in terms of ranking, as I mentioned. Yeah. Mad Max 2 definitely gets the 5 out of 5 for me because it was so fun. I honestly have to say, watch it. Wow. It is so good. Definitely. And that is everything I have watched, and so that is 13 things. I'm pretty disappointed in myself, but I have been busy, so I haven't had a massive amount of time this week. So, over to Mr. Inglis with his God knows how many films he's watched.
20!
Jesus.
Now, granted, it's not all films.
God,
the majority is still
You just don't have a life, do you?
Oh, how weird. Wow, you bellend. Right, okay. We're going to kick things off with my girlfriend's favourite film. And that's not sarcasm, it is literally her favourite film. The Blues Brothers. So it's directed by John Landis, who did American Werewolf in London and a few other films. It's got Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi. This is one that I'd vaguely heard about before I'd first watched it with her.
Yeah.
It took us a while to realise it was a favourite film. So it's like a musical, comedy, action-ish kind of thing.
So it's a blend of genres.
Oh yeah, I mean it's the same thing that John Landis is usually best known for. I mean, look at American Werewolf in London. You could argue it's just a horror film. Now it's actually a comedy as well. In fact, it's even more of a comedy, especially when I rewatched it last year. It's definitely a comedy film more than a horror. Until like the last 5 or 6 minutes when it just goes into all-out horror, and I'm just like, I love this. This is so good. This is about two guys who were really big on blues music, who were trying to raise money for the children's home they used to live in.
Yep.
And they have to try and get the gang back together. They play a load of music. Doesn't always work. They start angering a lot of people, including the police, the army, some Nazis, a country and western band, and Carrie Fisher, who is credited as Mystery Woman, who, in her first scene, rocks up outside of their apartment with a bazooka and then shoots the building. It explodes, and they just brush it off and just talk about something else.
Oh.
It's absolutely hilarious. So I can definitely see why this is her favourite film. I mean, she's like big on musicals as well. So I mean, like this thing absolutely goes for that. And I certainly really enjoy it. We watched the extended version, so it was 2.5 hours long. So it is it's a beefy
bit
one.
of a chunk.
But
I will say, now this is uncommon for me. I will say, I'm going to recommend her a musical if she hasn't seen it, because it's the only one I can ever watch. Sweeney Todd.
Is it? I was about to say, was it Little Shop of Horrors for some reason?
Okay, well, I'm yet to actually watch that, but I am aware that it is.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I am yet to still watch
Sweeney
that.
Todd, I don't think she's seen it. I mean, I haven't seen it. But yes, I can definitely recommend it to her. But yeah, so it was actually kind of funny watching the extended version of this, because I immediately thought of Justice League when I was watching it. Now, it's not because these are comparable films. They're not. One is decidedly better than the other. But it's funny when you watch Justice League and you can see how obvious the reshoots are.
Yep.
In this case, you can see how obvious the additional scenes are, because the colour grading is completely different. Like, it's a lot grainier. Everything feels a lot more flat and washed out, which I thought was quite funny. As soon as I'd mentioned it, even she was like, I can now see which bits are extended. I don't even need to remember. I could just see it's brand new. But I'd gotten it was the, I think it was one of the HMV exclusive editions that they did.
All right.
I can't remember if that was like birthday or anniversary or whatever, or Christmas. So you get like art cards, you got a trimmed down version of one of the call sheets, which, speaking as filmmakers, like, I spend a lot of time doing those. I was like, oh, I actually recognise the sorts of things. That's actually pretty cute. But yeah, I mean, I still really enjoy it. It's not the sort of thing I'd watch a lot, again, just with it being as long as it is. But there's never a dull moment, to be honest. And even as someone who's still trying to find his footing on musicals, I still thoroughly enjoy it. So essentially, I now know this. Every time it's around her birthday, I know we're going to be watching this. So I was like, okay, so if that's the case, when it's my birthday, we're watching The Lion King. which in fairness, that's not really like a threat. It's The Lion King. It's fucking tremendous. But now, Stranger Things Season 4, I've continued with that, with Episode 5. I'm trying not to spoil too much because I know you said you want to watch this show, so I'm going to keep it very,
You know what?
very vague.
I've come up for a time I want to start Stranger Things, and I'm going to be starting it on October. Just as a...
In October,
yeah,
right.
just as like a... Because, October being the season of all things spooky, I thought that would be a good time to actually start it. It gives me time to just get everything else that I want to watch out of the way, because obviously this is like... How many seasons? Like 5 seasons of Stranger Things or something?
We're on Season 4.
Season 4, okay.
And considering how big this season is, you'd assume there's no other season afterward. There is one more coming, probably like next year. So this is like the penultimate one.
Okay.
Still really solid. It's still reminding us of like old school Stranger Things when it was actually good, as opposed to that lackluster first episode of this season, which was just filler. Which is ironic for like the first episode. You wouldn't assume the first episode was going to be filler.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff with Millie Bobby Brown's character where she's delving into her quite traumatic past, which immediately made me think of a random episode in Season 2, which I'd happily say is the worst episode of the entire show. Though you'll definitely get to that at some point in October, as we've now said. Next up, a rewatch of just a random wee watch.
A wee watch.
A wee watch. It is a random wee watch of Halloween Kills.
Halloween Kills. Who's that
Halloween
character
Kills.
called? Like, I can never remember his name from bloody Bugs Bunny. I can never remember his name.
Wascally Wabbit. Is he the one with the beard? I think he is.
No,
isn't he?
it's that character. It's the guy who says, "I'm hunting wabbits." Wascally Wabbit.
Oh no, it's not. It's someone else. I don't know. I didn't watch Looney Tunes. The most I got was that Back in Action one with Bob Hoskins. Is it Bob Hoskins? I think it's Bob Hoskins. It is Bob Hoskins. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the first time I've watched Halloween Kills since we saw it in cinemas.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got the film pretty much immediately, and I just didn't watch it. I was like, I feel like I have to be.
Yes,
in the mood,
because you bought the one with the alternative ending. And I know what the alternative ending is because I listened to the audiobook on it, and it's exactly the same.
Yeah, to be honest, like, there's not much new.
Nah.
To be honest, I mean, I could tell when there was new stuff added in, but it's completely superfluous. It doesn't change anything. Like, all there is at the end is now Laurie is on a phone call and Michael Myers hears it and she starts talking to him. That's about it. It still ends in exactly the same way. I still maintain that this is still my favourite one because it doesn't focus on Laurie Strode, because I don't care for her as a character, and I know I'm still in the minority for that. That being said, with a rewatch now, the pacing is quite off in places. I think because now you're dealing with all the other people who live in Haddonfield, there's so many people to try and juggle. It doesn't always land as well. I still actually appreciate the fact that these guys forming a mob to hunt down Michael Myers, the film knows it's a bad idea, because of course it is a bad idea, it's a terrible idea, and it never endorses it, it just depicts it and shows how bad of an idea it is by the end. So I still really appreciated that, because I think it would have been easy for it to say, oh no, this is how you do it. But I'm like, well, you can't, because you've got one more coming out in a couple of years, well, in a couple of months now.
Yeah, not that long actually, it's quite scary.
Yeah. I mean, I could say it's my favourite of the 3 that I've watched, but exactly that. I've seen 3 of them. And you haven't exactly pitched the sequels as
Look, I'm going to say,
things that I'm just going to say,
as I have, Regan hasn't obviously seen the Halloween sequels, and many of them I'm going to just point them away from, as with anyone else, because they're just crap. Okay. 2 is maybe worth watching because it follows a similar thing with Laurie Strode. Yes, she is the main focus of it, but she is more vulnerable this time around. Basically, Halloween 2 is essentially a continuation of the 78 one, so it's essentially like part 2. And Laurie is taken to Haddonfield Hospital. Michael Myers obviously goes on his rampage and goes to the hospital, continues his rampage. Now, trivia here. They thought this was going to be the end of it, so they make it a finale where Dr. Loomis essentially just burns an entire building with him and Michael in it, and then, you know, sequels resurrected this. And to basically state, you know, they only suffered slight burns in a, you know, a room filled with oxygen tanks. You know, they have slight burns.
I find that quite funny then, because the 2018 one ends in exactly the same way with the burning house.
But
which obviously I didn't get that as a reference because I didn't see...
The 2018 one is on the timeline with 40 years later, so you have 78 and then you just skip everything else until the 2018 one. And rightfully so, because the timeline just becomes such a mess. So obviously 78 Halloween Kills on Halloween Ends. That is the timeline you should just focus on. Because, let's face it.
That seems fair.
Yeah.
Well, I think as I've said, that we'll definitely go and see Halloween Ends. Actually, you can't even remember the last film that me and you actually saw in the cinemas. I think it was Candyman.
Yes.
Wasn't it?
Yep, it was Candyman.
We're actually going back quite a while now. I actually forgot to mention that I think it was the last week or the week before was the anniversary of both of us going to the cinema for the first time since the pandemic.
And that was A Quiet Place too. Yep.
Yeah. Which I haven't really spoken about. I mean, I still really like that one. I really like that one a lot.
I like both of them. I think they're both brilliant films. I prefer the second one a little bit more. Yeah, I might actually prefer the second one a little bit. But yeah, that was Halloween Kills. Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 5. Oh, now let's hear your thoughts on this. Are you going to be as negative and as dark-sided as me?
Well, here's the thing. There's still bits of it I'm not going to spoil until next week, because that's when the show ends and we're going to be doing a spoiler-filled discussion of Obi-Wan Kenobi next week.
Yep.
The first scene could have made me cry because it finally, you know, there was a certain casting thing that's been going on in this series. They made it finally worth it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we've got one episode left. That feels a bit too little too late.
Yeah.
I still do not care about Reva. And I'm annoyed because what they do with it, you learn a little bit more about who she actually is. On paper, it's a genius idea. And in concept, I love it. But in execution, I don't care. So
I think we can say, I mean, I haven't obviously delved too much into like the other like Star Wars stuff like Clone Wars or anything like this, but this has certainly been done before where a character who starts off good, goes to evil. That's all I'll say, because obviously we don't want to spoil it, but, you know, this has been done before.
Disney's been at fault with this for a while, where they can't just have a villain be a villain.
There has to be some backstory to it, like, all the time.
Well, I mean, backstory's fine, but then you don't have to constantly make them out to actually be, in reality, quite nice.
Yeah.
Because then there's no antagonist, there's no threat, there's no challenge, then what the hell's the point?
It's like, are you trying to be the villain, or are you going to be a protagonist now? Like, make your mind up.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we'll definitely talk more about the more spoilery stuff next week. Literally immediately after watching this one, we went back to The Mandalorian Season 2 with the penultimate episode. Funny that, actually, both watching the penultimate of a series. This one, I believe, is called The Believer, I think it is. Mm-hmm. It's the episode that brings back Bill Burr as Mayfeld, who is terrific in this episode. Like, it's fascinating, like, when I first watched it, like, the first half feels like absolute generic filler.
Yeah.
And then you get at the second half, and how, like, the best thing that's in the episode, and it just goes to show how good of a show The Mandalorian is, where the best scene that's in it is a conversation scene, which is so tense when you've got Mando without his helmet, Mayfeld trying not to, you know, lose his shit against the Imperial officer, who's played by Richard Brake, who I didn't actually know until when I rewatched it. Actually played George Hill in Batman Begins. I wouldn't have had any idea about that.
You wouldn't think. I think the thing with The Mandalorian is, like, the cast especially, you really don't realise who they are until you actually look at it. You think, as if you were in that, you know?
Mm-hmm. And it does really give you a good insight into the time period between the originals and the sequels. And I'm not going to lie, even at the time, I did actually really like the line that he gives where he's like, what people actually want is order. I was like, funny. Is this? Are you actually going to finally explain what the hell the First Order is and what the hell the deal is? Because the sequels never did. I'll be like, seriously, who the hell is the First Order beyond just being an Empire clone? Which is ironic because there's no clones. Well, there wasn't any clones until episode 9, but we're not going to go there. Drink. Oh, I've got to stop with the references to episode 9. I swear to God. Right, moving on. This is a first time watch. This has been on my watch list for actually quite a while. It's now currently streaming on Disney Plus. Elektra from 2005.
I've added it to my watch list. I don't know. Let's hear the thoughts.
Well, Daredevil isn't terrible. I mean, it's not good by any means of the imagination, but I don't hate it as much as other people do. It's just quite silly.
Is this the series or the film you're talking about here?
The film, sorry.
The Ben Affleck one, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say the series I never watched. I will eventually at some point. But Elektra had been on for a while, especially after people constantly compared it to the likes of Catwoman and Batman and Robin. I was like... And honestly, after watching it, it is not in the same league. It is not a terrible film. It's just quite uneventful. That's like the best way I can describe it. Jennifer Garner is actually still quite good in the film, but you can tell that she doesn't want to be doing it.
Yeah.
Like she's already said, like she did it because she was contractually obligated to after Daredevil, and had been openly critical about the film in the lead up, which probably had a hand in her career going a bit downhill, which hasn't really recovered. I don't think she's been in anything high profile. Although she was in the Adam Project earlier this year with Ryan Reynolds. Yay. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. I actually appreciate how small scale it is. It's literally Elektra having to protect a father and daughter who she's been contracted to kill. But then there's other people that come in and start doing all that sort of stuff. It's fine. I mean, it still gets silly. Like, for some reason, like the people that are coming after this little family, when Elektra kills them, they just explode in green smoke.
Huh.
Because apparently you can't show blood or a corpse in a PG-13 superfilm. I'm like, what the hell are you on about? Like, Christ almighty. I was like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
What?
Yeah, it gets extremely silly in places which pull me away, especially whenever the film tries to take it really seriously. He's like, the worst thing about it is the tone. It's just all over the place. There's even moments where certain characters have tattoos that then transform into snakes and birds, which are like following people. I'm like, what the fuck is this? This is like something like from X-Men or something.
Do you know what? It's
one
starting
of the bad
to sound
X-Men films.
Like one of the bad X-Men films. It really is.
I know why they're doing it, because I'd class it as growing pains. It's the sort of thing that I'd expect from an early 2000s superhero film. They're trying to figure out what works.
Yeah.
Because this film is, on the face of it, a bit like Black Widow. It's very small scale, quite gritty.
Yeah.
But it's trying to be more like the other superhero films that work, which have got like the big explosions and the bombastic action and stuff like that. I'm like, actually, if you didn't do that, I would have liked the film more. I actually will say I do like the movie. I think it's okay. It's perfectly fine. It's nowhere near as bad as Catwoman, which I'd happily say is one of the worst superhero films I've ever seen in my life. Because what is that film about? It's literally a woman who works for a makeup conglomerate who gets revived by alley cats after falling out of a sewer, and then wears 30% clothes.
Wears 30% clothes.
But then, the mask that she wears makes her look more like a badger than a cat.
Badger
so it should
woman.
be Badger Woman, and that would have been better. Just saying. But yeah, I think if Jennifer Garner had a better script, I think her version of Elektra would have been received a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she definitely put in the work for it. I mean, like, she looks incredible for the film. It's just not that it's not that memorable, and I do appreciate the smaller scale compared to other superhero films that we get nowadays, where it's like end of the universe or every universe or this one is even bigger. I'm like, I actually quite like how it's just a couple of people in a house getting shot at. Not like that, but it's as I say, it's streaming on Disney Plus. This is the theatrical one. Apparently, the director's cut is a little bit better.
Well, it's the same for Daredevil, isn't it? Because there's a director's cut of Daredevil as well. I haven't seen the director's cut. I mean, the whatever cut was bad enough. No interest.
Yeah. Moving to better things. Returning to Stranger Things, episode 6 of 7. Again, delving more into the memories of some of the characters. It's still really strong. There's one character that's played by an actor called Jamie Campbell-Bower. He's also a musician, and he popped up in the Fantastic Beasts films as the younger version of Grindelwald. That's kind of where I recognise his face. Again, not revealing too much, but he's the kind of character who he does a really good job of feeling quite warm and welcoming, and then snapping to being sinister and scary within like a single moment. It's fantastic. So I really like this. Also, I'll still maintain two best characters in Stranger Things is the character of Steve, who you saw in was it Spree that I think you said you watched?
Yes.
He's the one that's driving the car. I've seen like a brief clip from Spree.
Oh,
He's driving the car, talking to people in the back. It's him. And Sadie Sink, who was in the second Figure Street film. Both of them star as characters who are thoroughly unlikable. They are literally designed to piss you off. But come season 4, love them a bit.
Total change.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah. And then, because I'm a completionist, I finished Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 1 with Episode 7. Massive episode. This is the one that's an hour 40. You feel it at a few points. Like, I was clicking the remote to say, oh, there's been 20 minutes. What? It's definitely been more than 20 minutes.
I'm guilty for doing that with some TV episodes, like especially some Doctor Who episodes on BritBox, because obviously we know that they're in parts, and it's like, what part am I on? 3 out of 7? What?
Again, not going to reveal too much, just because, again, I know you're going to watch it. It's fascinating that we've still got to wait a while for the final 2 episodes, but it's interesting actually because I got the news because Stephen King,
yes, I saw this.
Put out a tweet about it, and he was like, "This is rubbish. Like, why the hell are you doing this?" But the people who make Stranger Things, the Duffer Brothers, they actually responded, and they're purely candid.
I'm sorry, Uncle Stephen.
Haven't been finished yet. Yeah, I was like, the episodes haven't been finished yet. I'm like, that's actually not. I don't mind that, but at the same time, you could have just delayed it by a couple of weeks because you're going to release the entire season in one go, which I still don't like.
Yeah.
I really don't like that. I'd much prefer the way to do it with like the Mandalorian stuff, where it's like week by week. And I love how people said, "Oh, it has to be in one go."
At first, the whole week by week thing.
That is the point.
Hacked me off, but I think now I'm just so used to it with the amount of like weekly things we watch. Obviously, Miss Marvel, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Mandalorian, Boba Fett, all this stuff. So I'm more than used to it now, and I much prefer it, I have to say.
Yeah, definitely. So far really, really strong. I'm definitely looking forward to the final 2 episodes. This one has been on my watch list for literally 2 and a bit years. This one means a lot to me, and this is the one I mentioned made me cry. This is Farewell, Sarah Jane. This is the short Doctor Who story that was released during lockdown, like literally the beginning of lockdown, when Doctor Who started putting out some little audio stuff and like companion pieces to previous episodes and stuff, which I thought was great. It was a fantastic idea. So this is written by Russell T Davies, because of course it is, and this is essentially the conclusive chapter to the Sarah Jane adventures, which never got an actual ending because of the untimely passing of Elizabeth Sladen. Rest in peace, my God. Because she only got half a final series. We've already heard about what they're going to do with the second half, but that's beside the point. So this is narrated by Jacob Dudman, who I'm actually old enough to remember him before he did all the Doctor Who stuff. He was just a YouTuber who did impressions of the 11th Doctor, and he was great, like terrific at it. and now he does stuff for Big Finish. He's done stuff for the Doctor Who YouTube channel, and he narrated this. So he's definitely gone up in the world, and he's stuck with Doctor Who. So good for him.
So where is
so
this? Like where can we watch this? Because I'm interested.
YouTube.
In YouTube.
It is
YouTube.
I literally on the official Doctor Who YouTube channel. It's there.
Right.
So it's a memorial service to Sarah Jane, who they actually acknowledge that she's passed away.
Yeah.
Defending Earth from an alien invasion. You get a brief hint of the Trickster coming back, but again, it's narration. You don't actually. So you get the likes of Angeline Mohindra back as Rani, Tommy Knight as Luke, Daniel Anthony as Clyde, Alexander Armstrong as Mr. Smith, Katie Manning as Joe Grant's back in this as well. You even get Sophie frickin' Aldred as Ace.
Damn.
And honest to God, because initially, because it's done like an actual video, so you see Jacob Dudman narrating, and then it cuts to like webcam footage of the other actors, so like acting out the part and stuff. I ended up turning my head away and just closing my eyes and listening to it, and I could feel the tears, starting to well up by the end, because I'm like, I don't want there to be an end to this, and I think it really hit us when they talk about how everyone's there, but the Doctor isn't, because they didn't want to tell him because his heart would break.
Damn, that would have hit me. That would have hit me.
But then it hit again, because Rani apparently doesn't say much for the entire episode until the very end, and she's talking to Mrs. Smith at the very end about how she thinks Sarah Jane isn't actually dead. I actually reckon that the Doctor came back for her, and they're off having some final adventures together. And I was like, stop it, please.
Please, my heart is weakened enough.
Yeah.
Stop.
Like, and then the credits are rolling. I paused it, and I was just like, I need a couple of tissues. I swear to God. I'd actually forgotten how much I love that show. Even after rewatching Death of the Doctor a couple of weeks ago, which is terrific, but I deliberately put off watching this again because I thought, I can't take it.
I tell you what, I mean, this has been mentioned before, but seeing her in some older Doctor Who episodes, and of course the sort of rebooted series in the Sarah Jane Adventures, she is sorely missed. I mean, I loved her as a companion, and she's a terrific actress, and God rest in peace, because you were my childhood.
Yeah, 11 years.
11 years.
11 and a bit years now.
Yeah.
So after that, I knew I need something to pick us up, because I don't want to be sad when I can go to bed.
Yeah.
So I did a random rewatch of Star Trek Beyond. I actually think this is the best of the new Star Trek movies.
I'm just going to come out with an admittance here. I've never ever seen Star Trek in my life.
You know what it is? Like, I hear enough people taking the piss out of it, which kind of put us off. The only ones I've watched are the new movies. I've seen a little bit here and there of like Next Generation stuff because my girlfriend's a big Trekkie. Like occasionally, if I'm upstairs doing work, I'll come downstairs and she's watching an episode on Netflix or something, which is great, to be honest, because I mean, bloody hell, it's a lot of us. But the new movies I do actually really like, in particular Beyond. This is the newest one. This is from 2016. This is the one that was meant to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the franchise. Didn't really promote it very well because the film kind of bombed. But by all means, it's great. Like, everyone's on top form. I love Chris Pine as James T. Kirk. And Zachary Quinto as Spock. Both of them two together are great. Idris Elba's the villain as well. He's quite menacing, if a bit unmemorable. It feels like a classic kind of Star Trek episode because it was actually written, well, there was a fair amount of development held with this one. One of the writers was Simon Pegg, of all people.
Right.
Who's also in these films as Scotty, with a proper Scottish accent, and it's beautiful. But it feels like a classic Star Trek episode. I'm like, if you're going to celebrate the 50th, you do that. It's the same with the day of the Doctor. That feels like a classic episode of Doctor Who because that's what you should do. Just like treat it as like, okay, let's just do the best of the best, and it works so well. Easily the biggest highlight though is Sophia Boutella as one of the new characters called Jailer. Absolute badass. Like, my God, she's great. I just have so much. I mean, even like the climax of the film, which ties directly to the first one with a little bit of music that's in it. Even when I first saw it, I was like, I really like that. And I'm not even a Trekkie. I can't call myself a Trekkie because I've only watched these ones. I do want to watch the new series though. I think it's Strange New Worlds. It's got Anson Mount, I think, as the lead, who we saw in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
The Multiverse of Why.
Ooh, hot take. But yeah, he was in there as Black Bolt. So that's on Paramount Plus. That actually comes to the UK next week. I'm mostly getting that for Halo because the TV series of that is on there. So I'm going to be watching.
You know what? I
the hell
forgot
out of
that was a thing. I forgot that was a thing.
I've read enough. I've read enough to be really worried, like really, really worried. But I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it a fair shot because we've had pretty crappy video game films in the past. Minus Sonic the Hedgehog 2. There we go. It's another reference to Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I want that. I want that film. But yes, just random rewatch of that. Another random rewatch. Doctor Who: The Next Doctor. Not the one I would have picked.
Is this the
quite
one
frankly.
with David Morrissey?
It is the one with David Morrissey.
Oh, now I think we're going to have differences on this one.
This is the first time I've watched it in about 2 years because I had rewatched it when me and my girlfriend were going through the Revive series. We kind of gave up about halfway through series 5 and then sort of like,
Yeah.
It's fine. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just kind of there. David Morrissey's great. His interactions with Tennant's pretty solid. Though you can tell immediately on rewatch that he's not the Doctor because there's some dialogue that's absolutely terrible. Like literally, I think I cringed so hard when he was like, "The Doctor's companion does what the Doctor says."
Oh, like, you know what it is?
But also
I had a bit of a shiver at that. I thought, ugh.
I think I even had more of a shiver slightly earlier when he's like, "Rosita, give me the sonic screwdriver." I'm like, why has she got it? You have pockets.
Considering it's got like some big like Victorian overcoat thing as well, you'd think he would carry it.
It also does the thing that the Revive series has done really poorly until more recently, where the Cybermen are utterly wasted. Like, you could take them out, minus the Cyber King sequence, which admittedly, yeah, it's stupid, but it's entertaining as hell watching a giant Cyberman stomp across
steampunk
London.
Cyberman, you're forgetting that.
Whatever. It's a naked Cyberman.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Powered by child slaves, as you do. Bloody Victorian England was just pretty fun, apparently. It's fine, but again, it's just like they're just wasted entirely.
I honestly felt the same.
It doesn't.
I felt the same.
Yeah.
I think I like it a little bit more because I love David Morrissey as an actor, and I know him from The Walking Dead. He played a villain called the Governor. He is just an absolute bastard.
Even I'm aware of him in that, mostly because my mum and my sister and my stepdad were big fans of The Walking Dead. I'm not. I'm not going to give a toss. Bloody zombies.
Zombies.
Sticking with Doctor Who, I'm sure I've asked this before, but how far into the Matt Smith era did you actually get before you turned off?
I think, well, I'm probably just going to have to dish the names out of episodes and you're going to have to kind of tell me what season it is. I definitely got past the first part of it, so obviously this is Prisoner Zero, so this was like, the majority of those episodes.
Series 5.
Yep. 6, I think I got into... The one of the episode I distinctly remember was Asylum of the Daleks. I don't know if that's Matt Smith. Is that Matt Smith?
Beginning of Series 7, so yeah.
Yeah,
it is.
That is where I got up to. Before I just totally lost interest.
That's fine. So this bit's actually a little bit later. This is Clara and the TARDIS. It's just like a little mini-sode that the did like halfway through Series 7. So you have no concept of the Clara character played by Jenna Coleman.
Nope.
Terrific actress, very well performed. Character's a bit poor. Like, especially in Series 7, she literally exists to be a plot device. But we'll discuss that when we get to Series 7 in
weeks.
The future. Yeah. So I just watched this on YouTube because I don't have the series on DVD anymore. It's literally Clara having an argument with the TARDIS, because in the context of again, I'm not trying to give too much away because it is a kind of interesting idea, but there's something to do with Clara that the TARDIS really doesn't like.
Right.
Which sounds stupid if you're not a Doctor Who fan. Just like a grown woman is having an argument with a police box. welcome, welcome to Doctor Who, everyone. It's literally like a 3-minute skit where the TARDIS is hidden Clara's bedroom and she's arguing with it to try and figure out where the hell it is. And there's a point where, because they do that thing with all the new companions where like, oh, he's never actually had anyone else with him. And then the TARDIS literally shows him a load of images of every single previous conveniently female companion. And then it gets to a shot of Amy Pond, and it's so obviously a promotional image from Series 6, because it's like a full body photo shoot of her. Though there is a really funny line where she's like, "Dear God, that woman is made of legs." Because I mean, yeah, she is. She's unbelievable. It's just 93% leg. I mean, look, it's pure fluff. There's nothing,
It's just one of those entertaining little skits, so it's kind of like Time Crash, that one for the children in need, where Pete Davidson comes in and they basically just argue, and it's so fun.
Yeah, there's definitely a point where, because it is written by Stephen Moffat, and there's a little bit where he decides to add in a little bit more timey-wimey stuff, where suddenly Clara meets the Clara from Tomorrow Night, who's still trying to find a bedroom, and then there's a load of other ones that pop up, and two of them talk about how we found a bedroom, but now we have to share a bed, and it's two Claras, and you're like,
huh?
That is a story in and of itself. God damn it! But that's kind of beside the point. Now. Okay. I think we've mentioned Primeval at some point in this, haven't we?
Yes.
I think.
A few times.
How much of it did you watch?
I couldn't say I've definitively watched a season back to back. I've just sort of watched episodes from all things when it's just aired on TV every now and then.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you a thing because this was years ago. This was absolutely years ago.
Of course. Yeah. Well, I suddenly decided to have a hankering for rewatching bits of Series 3, which I think many people would consider to be the best series of the entire show. It's got the most amount of episodes, it's got the best story, the best characters, and it was cancelled at the very end, because of course it was, cancelled again. This one kicks off in the British Museum, which is pretty apt, because I didn't think about it in hindsight, because I was watching it at the point that my girlfriend was in London for a Stonehenge exhibition at the British Museum. I didn't pick up on that until afterwards. I was like,
coincidence?
Oh shit, she's there.
Coincidence?
So this literally has the British Museum. Yeah. But I'm very biased to this episode because it's got a lot of Egyptian mythology in it, which I quite liked, and it has like a prehistoric crocodile that they decided that the Egyptians revered as a god. So there's some nice mythology added in where it's like, well, you've got all these mythological creatures that are revered as gods and stuff. What if they're just prehistoric animals that have come through an anomaly? And that's literally that. And I thought, holy crap, that's actually a genius idea, because then you've already explained the Loch Ness Monster immediately. It's like, oh, it actually is a plesiosaurus that just fell through an anomaly in Scotland, because of course it did. We never see that, which is annoying. So I'd watch that one. Then I watched episode 2, which is literally literally like a little haunted house kind of thing. There's a little creature from the future that looks like I was about to say a demonic version of a gremlin. It is literally a gremlin that can camouflage. And I can remember it really freaking us out as a kid, because like the opening, like cold open thing, and there's a shot of it hiding on the couch, and then it slowly morphs in. Ooh. Because the skin starts to reveal itself, and then like you see its eyes glow, and I was like, nope, it's 2009, nope, absolutely not, I'm a kid, nope, stop it, go away. That's still great, to be honest. There's a really great, I mean, you remember Douglas Henshaw's character, Cutter, the Scottish one?
Very, very vaguely.
Okay. I have to use Scottish because it's kind of part of the joke. Essentially, for this episode, he's predicted that an anomaly is going to appear in this house at some point, and obviously it does at the end. And then Andrew Lee Post's character Connor is talking about how I've just spoken to Cutter, I've told him about the anomaly opening, and how he was right. And then like, well, I mean, what did he say? I was like, what, his exact words? He was like, of course, I was right. And the accent's impeccable, and it gets like a proper laugh every single time I watch it. I can't do it justice. I can't do a Scottish accent like immediately like that. Then I watch episode 3, which is all just action and stuck in a hospital with a couple of cute little Diectodon Permian era mammals. Basically, just think of like little like chipmunks with like buck teeth. And they're honestly the most adorable things in the entire series.
So basically Scrat from Ice Age.
Yeah, just not looking for a nut. 5 films. Yeah.
I've just totally ruined that for you now, because now you're just going to see Scrat and just hope that these little creatures in the hospital are just looking for a nut.
I don't even like Ice Age. Like, I couldn't give a shit. I only cared when the studio did like a little brief short that it was the last thing they did before they closed. It was of Scrat guessing the nut, looking back and forth, thinking something's going to happen. Nothing happens. And he starts eating it, and it's just like, thank you for all these years. And I'm just like, I don't like Ice Age, but I could have cried at that. Like, you've actually given him the nut and nothing's happened. Then I watched episode 4 of Primeval, Series 3, that conveniently has the Giganotosaurus from Jurassic World.
Oh, no.
And it's better! It's so much better.
Oh, no.
So it's set in an airport, well, not like an airport, but it's set in like an airplane hangar. And you can tell it was shot on the same place as Top Gear was.
Right.
Like, the track's the same, the buildings in the background are the same. It's so obvious, and I love it. Which I find quite funny, because Primeval was ITV and then Top Gear was BBC. I'm like, how the hell did you even get that? Like, how the hell? I quite like that. Another episode of The Boys. We get more stuff with Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy. Obviously, better known for Supernatural. Really great stuff. I'm still really enjoying it. Again, watch it, but then again, you've got everything to watch. And then these 3 are literally from the last 24 hours. All movies. So there's that new Netflix film with Chris Hemsworth titled Spiderhead.
Very, very creepy title.
Not a very good film. I thought it was bland as fuck. It's just sad because the director is Joseph Kosinski and it co-stars Miles Teller. What other film is out right now that's directed by Joe Kosinski and starring Miles Teller? Bloody Top Gun Maverick, which I still haven't seen. Yeah, I think there's like drugs and stuff in this, and it's like...
I mean, it kind of sounds like a horror film, but, Netflix is kind of a bit of a tease with stuff like that, because they give a film a horror title doesn't necessarily mean it's a horror film. It usually just ends up being crap.
Yeah, it's kind of all over the place. I'm not going to lie to you. I've not got much to say. I thought it was poo.
This is a sigh of
Yeah, you know how you said that you were going to rewatch the Jurassic World films at some point?
Yes.
I rewatched Fallen Kingdom.
Oh no. Can we just admit
I can say it.
that it has one of the saddest scenes of it in all time, despite being an absolutely terrible film?
I hate that scene.
I hate it. I really do. Look, I'm
hate
sad
it
enough
it's
most
sad.
days.
I hate it because it's cheap. I'm like, oh, it's sad. And then the bloody Brachiosaurus has to do the same pose he did in the original. I'm like, oh, fuck off. You've just lost it. You've absolutely lost it. You know what it is, right? There is quite a bit in this film that I do. I mean, for one, the direction is impeccable. I think it's the best looking Jurassic film, full stop. I quite like the first act on the island.
Yeah.
Can't sustain that for an entire film because I'm sick of that island. And I don't mind the idea of a house being full of dinosaurs. That's actually quite interesting.
Yeah.
Even if it goes back into your typical monster movie, which Jurassic Park isn't supposed to be, but that's beside the point. I think
I can agree with you there. Like, the island scene is fine, because it kind of goes with the dinosaurs and extinction, with the whole lava and stuff like this. And that scene where I cannot remember the dinosaur's name. I should probably know it considering I'm a fan of dinosaurs, but there is a carnivore dinosaur that appears in the tunnel, and the lighting is done really well, and there's like flashes of the molten, and the dinosaur comes closer and closer and closer.
It's the baryonyx.
Yes, a baryonyx.
I think it is.
And the poor thing gets its snout burnt, and then it's like, ooh, oh no.
Yeah. All I can say is that the best thing about this film now is the fact that it's by default not the worst one, though I think we differ now. I think you still dislike Fallen Kingdom more than Dominion, but
I think Dominion is going to become the worst one because from the disappointment that Dominion was, I think Fallen Kingdom is just going to skyrocket in terms of likability.
Yeah. Well, we will talk about Dominion in a second, but I do have one more. So I definitely did end it on a high note. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Yay!
I love this one. I always have. I don't care if Steven Spielberg really dislikes it. He thinks it's the worst film he's ever made. I'm like, mate, this is one of the best films you've made.
It was definitely my favourite Indiana Jones as a kid. And it's funny that because Last Crusade was actually the one that I liked least. Then it was Raiders, then it was Temple of Doom, but now it's sort of like opposite.
It's still Last Crusade is the best, then Temple of Doom, then Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then the new one, probably. I don't believe it was the fourth one.
No, it was something.
Kingdom
of the Crystal. What? Kingdom of the Crystal Turd. Oh, that was what it was, wasn't it?
Kingdom of the Colossal Disappointment and Waste of My Time, plus Sam Wiki on a motorbike for a second.
Oh, and the OCD Russians, because every scene after a battle they were just squeaky clean in uniforms.
Yeah, well, to be honest, everyone's clean that one. But anyway, Temple of Doom, I absolutely love. I love how dark it gets. I love as well the fact that until I got the more recent Blu-ray ones, I haven't got the 4K ones. I haven't got the money for that. The DVDs that I had were technically censored ever so slightly for Temple of Doom. So when I got the Blu-ray and I rewatched it didn't have the actual shot where Mola Ram's hand goes inside the guy and take out his heart. You don't see him entirely burn, and you don't see the heart set on fire either. And I remember watching that for the first time, I was like, oh my God, this is darker than I realised, and I love it!
I tell you one thing that still gets me about that film and why I love it so much. The scene where obviously Indy finds the secret passage and they go into the room and Short Round kicks in the trap. Willie comes down and has to put a hand in the thing that's crawling with insects of all shapes and sizes. Yeah. That still just gets under my skin so much.
We are going to die! I love that face. Like, honestly, I could use that face as a thumbnail, just him going...
Yeah, it is such a good
I also
film.
maintain that, like, whatever Indiana Jones 5 is, can you please bring back Short Round? Please.
Such a good
character. I want him back for the final one.
I even love the bit where, like,
he's popped up again.
The slave master, I think is what the character was called, and India battling, and he just takes the whip and he starts, leave him alone! He just starts hitting him with the whip. He just picks him up and chucks him away. It's like, oh my life.
I even don't find Willie Scott all that annoying when everyone else is. I'm like, that's kind of the point. She's meant to be the exact opposite of Marion.
I still find it absolutely hilarious when she gets chucked off the elephant. I still absolutely pee myself for that scene. I'm losing
but also, as well as that, I also think it's a bit unfair for Steven Spielberg to call this his worst film because the actress that plays Willie Scott is now married to Spielberg.
Yes.
Because of this film, I'm like, you can't say this is terrible because you literally got a wife out of this. Like, how weird. Yeah, it was definitely a good one to end on. But I've now beaten you with the most amount of stuff I've watched.
Wait till next week.
Finally!
You wait.
Oh, shut up. Shut up. Yes, so we are now talking spoilers for Jurassic World Dominion because I can still remember what the hell happens in this film. Now, I do have some, like, points to talk about.
I think we're going to talk about maybe if we focus on the positives, just as a bit of a change of heart, the very few positives of this film.
Okay then, I will move down the list then. We'll talk about the return of Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum.
Alan!
I actually forgot his name, sorry Jeff. who are all conveniently wearing the exact same costumes that they did in the original, which I didn't really pick up on. I was like, how fucking lazy is that? I'm like, people wear other clothes. This isn't like an episode of Doctor Who. Like, Howie.
Has Alan been in these same clothes since the incident on Jurassic Park?
He's still digging up the exact same frickin' dinosaur. I haven't finished yet. It's been 30 years. I haven't had any funding. Yeah, look, I don't know your full spoilery thoughts on this, but I'm pretty certain that these three being back is probably the best thing in this film for you.
Well, actually, there are a couple of other things I'll mention as well, but yeah, the trio returning, I think, is probably the highlight of that film. And, you know, they've obviously aged, you know. I mean, Jurassic Park came in, 1993? 1993. Yes. So obviously we've had a bit of a gap. You know, the last time we saw Sam Neill and Ellie was Jurassic Park 3. And Ellie wasn't really exactly in it. She was more just a little background character.
A brief cameo.
Yeah. You know, because Alan is underwater and gets a phone call and she's like, dinosaurs.
I'm going to call in the army because for some reason I have the hotline for that. I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah. She's just got it on speed dial. She's just got it on speed dial.
Why? So why the hell does the paleontologist have like direct access to the phone number for the frickin' armed forces? I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But that's like the last, that's the least of my concerns with that one. I've definitely got to agree with you. I mean, like having them back was definitely the strongest stuff. And obviously, I can now talk about what this film actually is about because I couldn't say it at the time. Mm-hmm. Locusts. It's Locust World Dominion. So you've got locusts that have been experimented on. They're now Cretaceous era locusts that are eating a lot of crops. It's not even like a mystery as to who the hell's behind this because the scene immediately is like, oh yeah, they aren't eating the seeds that were from Biosyn. I'm like, no, it's actually Biosyn because of course it bloody is. Who's somehow run by the background character who no one remembers the name of in the first Jurassic World, who talks to Dennis Nedry and gives him the can of whatchamacallit.
The shaving foam.
Yeah.
God, to admit, I like that. Seeing that again, that was a good little bit of nostalgia. Shame about most of the film, but yeah.
Well, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell does he have that can, and why the hell does he still have it 30 years later?
Collector's value.
Because it's on Jurassic Park, right? It gets washed away in a waterfall. Hodgson isn't on the island at that point.
No.
So, and even he says
you can only
the
really
embryos
speculate
that are in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even then, it's not a good kind of speculation because we want to know because it doesn't make any sense.
Because he even says like they won't survive too long. It's like
exactly. I'm like, so you must have been hiding in the corner of the screen for the entire time of Jurassic Park, and then as soon as he dies, like, wait, that's mine. Off it goes. I'm gonna make a sequel.
You know, while the Dilophosaurus is just eating Dennis, he's just like tiptoeing to the mud waterfall just to dig up the little can and jog on his way.
But hey, but it's fine because he gets the same comeuppance as bloody Dennis does. Pointless.
Yep.
Absolutely pointless.
You know what it is? I picked up on that straight away. I thought, how fucking lazy.
Well, his thing, because he's going to have to die, there's no other way he's going to get it because there's no stupid hybrid dinosaur. Although,
thank God.
I was adamant until after the fact that the one of them was actually a hybrid because I thought there's no way that this thing ever feckin' existed. And it's called, obviously I know my stuff about dinosaurs, I'm going to pronounce this incredibly spot on, the Therizinosaurus.
Is that the dinosaur with the Freddy Krueger claws?
The blind one, yes.
Yep.
Apparently it is an actual dinosaur.
Yeah, it was.
Like, no, it isn't. There is no way.
Yep.
I mean, I've checked, it is.
Yep.
But I'm like, how the hell did evolution to create that? That is literally a horror film villain.
Gotta be said.
It's not
gotta be said, I think I probably like that more as a horror fan because it feels sort of like a quiet place. Like, obviously, we can talk about spoilers now. So Claire obviously falls into this forest area. This dinosaur is there.
And doesn't
and
die.
she
That's
crawls
fine.
into a swampy pond, and she can't
Being
make...
pursued by a blind dinosaur.
Yeah,
to be
that is
honest,
a pretty
like-
creepy scene, I must admit, because that dinosaur
It
looks
is.
pretty terrifying. I mean, I would not like to be
I
on the
actually
end of
didn't mind
those
that.
things.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't actually mind that sequence at all.
Yep.
What I absolutely despise is the fact that this random-ass dinosaur who's in one scene, much like with the Mosasaurus in Jurassic World, suddenly comes back at the very end for the big final fight, which is an absolute rip-off of Jurassic World.
Do you know what it is? You said this about Halloween 2018 one, cut and paste. It is literally cut and paste.
But I'm like, are you serious? I mean, even the shot that you get of the T-Rex coming past the weird circular structure,
Yeah.
and it does the same pose. I was like, fuck off. like you're not even clever. You're just cheap. And then it is literally just a copy and paste of that final fight, which, granted, the one at the end of Jurassic World is entertaining, if stupid. But I will maintain, I really wish it was the Spinosaurus instead of the stupid Freddy Krueger thing. I would have liked that
We
more.
haven't seen a Spinosaurus since Jurassic Park 3, and we're gonna... I think this is definitely maybe the midpoint of Dominion, we'll say, where they go into the old amber mines and there is like a spine shot, and I thought, please be a Spinosaurus, please!
Yeah, I was like...
But it's not.
Is it a baby one? But it's not. It's actually a Dimetrodon,
Yep.
which I also quite like. That was actually kind of funny. So, I mean, in terms of like the new dinosaurs you've got the Blindosaurus.
Blindosaurus.
I'm going to call it that instead. You've got the weird feathered Velociraptor swimmy thing, which apparently is called a Pyroraptor. I'm like, It's not on fire. It isn't a Pyroraptor. It's not on fire. I was like, okay. You've got... Would you like to know the name of those not Velociraptors that are chasing Chris Pratt on the motorbike?
What are they called?
They're actually called Atrociraptors.
Atrociraptors.
And that is their actual name.
Oh my.
That is what they're actually called.
Atrociraptors.
Pointless. That entire scene, utterly pointless.
Well, again, it's cut and paste. I mean, look what happened in bloody Jurassic World. Same thing with the raptors. It's just Atrociraptors.
And then, of course... Yeah. And then, of course, you've got the Jogosaurus ha ha ha. Because, this one is based on the Joker because it just wants to watch the world burn. It's a dinosaur. It just wants to eat things. It doesn't want to watch the world go boom. No dinosaur wants that. No animal wants that. Who the hell... Well, we know who the hell wrote this. I have questions. Again, pointless. Utterly pointless. I don't understand why, especially after Colin Trevorrow said, I was saving the Giganotosaurus for the final film. I'm like, why? Seriously, why? There is no reason to do that beyond the fact it's slightly bigger.
Do you know what
That's
really hacked me off with that? It's a cool dinosaur, right? It is used pretty damn well. But that ending fight, I was pretty damn hacked off. The blind dinosaur makes a return and coincidentally sticks its little sharp fingers out and the T-Rex pushes him on the fingers.
Oh, yeah.
I was really hacked off with that.
How the hell did the Blindosaurus actually get there?
That was my question.
Because it's literally blind. It's nowhere near the ball.
Was it drawn by noise or anything like that? Did it just suddenly just run and just hope for the best? It's just there.
Yeah.
But it is there. It is in that particular place as well.
Yeah.
It's like
because again, it does that thing where it's like, we have to have the T-Rex be heroic. Why?
It's not meant to be heroic.
I'm still the one who will keep on defending the fight in Jurassic Park 3 when the T-Rex dies.
Yes.
Because it should. There's
in the reality, it should have been the Giga who won. The Giga is bigger than a T-Rex. It was nothing, but yet apparently so.
The filmmakers clearly got the wrong end of the stick when it comes to Jurassic Park. We don't love that original film because of the T-Rex. I mean, the T-Rex is awesome, but we love that film because of the human characters. The dinosaurs are just a nice add-on. Stop making the T-Rex out to be a hero, especially when I was watching Fallen Kingdom, literally last night. And I hated the fact that the opening scene presents them as horror movie villains.
Yeah.
And then the next scene is of them saying, "Oh, we need to save them." Well, which one is it?
Yeah.
Are they monsters or are they animals?
Is that the particular scene
tell me
when
which one.
Claire, Owen, and that stowaway on the ship, and they basically do a transfusion on the T-Rex and stuff? It's just...
Ugh.
You think, okay, so 1 minute you're like, well, you know, it's a T-Rex, bad, eats people, but we have to save it.
No, we don't.
Make your mind
I
up.
also love the fact that it still is the only T-Rex.
Ugh.
Like, that means in this entire franchise, right, the 6 movies, we've seen 3 different T-Rexes.
I've got to
That's
admit,
it.
I noticed this in Fallen Kingdom. I like how they've brought the Carnosaurus in now. There's more of the Carnosaurus.
Yay.
With the little funny arms.
Yeah.
These
Well,
little tube arms.
Oh, I was going to say, when I watched that, I even laughed at my dad. I was like, his arms are utterly redundant.
I know.
Why didn't evolution just get rid of them? Because they're not going to do anything.
You know what it is? When me and my girlfriend first watched this, I mean, obviously I knew my dinosaurs and stuff like that, and she saw those arms and she was just absolutely creased. She was like, how does he use those arms?
I was laughing a lot. Yeah, I mean, I even said, like, in the, you know, when I talked about it last week, how you could take the dinosaurs out of the film and it doesn't hurt the main story because it's about the locusts.
Yeah.
Which it isn't even clever commentary on, like, environmentalism and, like, food, because it's not clever at all. It thinks it's clever, but it's not. It's, like, really, really surface level. It's the kind of stuff I'd expect and have seen in recent episodes of Doctor Who. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, climate change is bad. We should stop climate change. Right. Yes, you're right, we should. Have you got anything else to say? No, absolutely not. Like, excellent. Thanks, bloody BBC and Chris Chippers II.
Now, I don't know if you
literally
picked up on this
identical.
because of this, you know, how bored you got during the runtime of this, but the whole subplot of Maisie being genetically engineered, I just didn't give a shit. I came for dinosaurs. I didn't come for a genetically engineered girl. Don't turn
here's
it
the
into
thing,
some
right?
stupid bloody Terminator-style RoboCop cliche.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, I don't mind the idea of human clones in this franchise. It makes sense because in 1993 you're able to clone dinosaurs. You're going to get to human clones pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But the problem is when they did it in the previous one, it adds nothing.
Yep.
And I still hate the logic of her letting the dinosaurs out. It's like, they're alive, like me. I'm like, I'm really glad you aren't like a prison officer. Where I'm like, oh, I have to let all the prisoners go. They're alive, like me. Like, you're utterly stupid. Like, you really should... I mean, fair enough. I can understand why you wouldn't show them gassing out all the dinosaurs at the end of the film. Because, yeah, fair enough, they're not real animals. It's all CGI. But, you know, deaths of animals is going to bring a tear.
Yeah.
Because of course it will. But you either do that or you make a really stupid decision and you don't even act on it because this thing is set 4 years after they get out. And I'm like, the world's gotten used to it already. I'm like, I'm not expecting like a post-apocalyptic dystopian bloody thing.
Yeah.
Where like dinosaurs are reigning supreme. But when the fact that the synopsis suggests that it's going to be about mankind and dinosaurs trying to figure out which one's going to come out on top, it's not that. It's about freaking locusts eating crops.
God dang, locusts eating my crops.
But also, it's the fact that when Fallen Kingdom came out and Colin Trevorrow was saying that Jurassic World 3 at the time is the film he wanted to see for years, was it really locusts you wanted to see?
No.
Because you could have just made a film about locusts.
You could
I'm
have.
surprised you haven't already.
You know what it is, right? To me, it was like some like bootleg Children of the Corn. It really was. Like, the last thing I expected was a bunch of prehistoric locusts just tearing up crops. Pretty unsatisfactory, must say. And I think, let's face it, right? This film is just pretty much copy and paste from both Fallen Kingdom and Jurassic World. Now, good examples of this: Blue the Raptor, Fallen Kingdom. She gets taken in Fallen Kingdom, but we're not going to take Blue this time. We're going to take Blue's baby. You know, mix things up a little bit. Then we have the kidnapping and selling of dinosaurs on the black market in Italy this time. Instead of
Greece.
Greece. In...
Very, very different.
Mansion, yeah. I mean, it's literally just copy and paste. Like, you're not bringing anything new and exciting. You're just copying and pasting stuff that's already being done. What are you doing?
It's literally, it's literally just a monster movie.
Yeah.
And that isn't what Jurassic Park is. Like, even
They've
on rewatch of Jurassic
honestly
World, that
taken
is purely
the
just a monster
magic
movie.
out of Jurassic Park and transformed it into a monster movie. Like, if I wanted to go see a monster movie, I'd just go watch Godzilla. Or something like that.
Yeah.
I'd just go watch Godzilla King of the Monsters, where a giant moth and giant dragon and giant vulture thing just start tearing up the planet. Because why not? Because let's just unleash them.
And somehow it's even better. Obviously, we haven't really mentioned Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, whose names in the film I'm actually refusing to remember. Pointless. Like, especially after watching episodes of The Mandalorian, Bryce Dallas Howard is far better at directing, and I hate that I'm saying that. Like, she literally makes the best episode of Book of Boba Fett. You wouldn't even know it was her until you saw the end. And she directed a couple of episodes of Mandalorian, which are still really good. Chris Pratt is... I'm not at the point that other people are, where they're, like, unnecessarily hating on him.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they're doing that. Like, he has his beliefs, good for him. Just leave it alone, he's a freaking actor. I watched him in that Tomorrow War last year. Was it last year or this year? I can't even remember. Pointless in that, he was rubbish. He's just the most generic leading man who doesn't learn anything and has nothing to do. And I don't believe for a second that Alan Grant knows who he is.
Yeah.
I don't buy that for a second.
I didn't.
Did you actually... Didn't. If you remember last week, I mentioned there was a line said. I can't remember if I said who said it, but there was a line of dialogue in this film which I could have just used as my review.
It was something by Jeff Goldblum.
Do you know which line it was now?
No, because I...
Yeah. No, he literally says, Jurassic World? Not a fan.
Yeah. Yes.
I was like, as soon as I heard that, I was like, nah.
That just sums up the film in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Jurassic World? Not a fan.
Obviously, we'll get to the ending. Now, we didn't... Obviously, I tried not to spoil anything of this when we mentioned about how Jurassic can continue, because we don't want it to continue. But it's the biggest middle finger to the entire film, because what we're actually going to set up is dinosaurs living amongst humans. I'm like, you've had 2.5 hours and 4 years for us to get to this point, and now you're saying, we need to wait for the next one.
Yep.
Piss off.
Yep.
I'm getting more angry at this film every single time. Like that.
Do you know what it is, right?
Big blockbusters in the last couple of months.
My honest rating of it is 2.5, and I think if I watch it again, that is going to drastically go down because I really didn't like
1.5.
I really didn't like this film. I think the only thing that gave it its mercy of 2.5 was the trio, the Giga, and a few other little highlights, and it really shouldn't be 2.5. It should probably be a lot lower.
I was going to say, I'm telling you now, drop it immediately. I mean, even like, it feels so quick, especially because the person that narrates the ending is a character who isn't even a character. It's frickin' whatchamacallit, the clone girl's mother who randomly pops up in webcams set in like the early 2000s with modern Apple Macs in the background that we recognise from college. I'm like, this is not 2006. Don't you dare try and tell me it's 2006.
How did we feel about Henry Wu returning? Because I think I have my say on this.
I don't believe that Alan Grant would recognise him from one random scene in Jurassic Park where they don't really get acquainted. Yep. But also it's the fact that for the previous two films, you've tried to make him out to be a bit of a villain.
Yep. And
now all of a sudden he's just like timid and scared and hiding in the corner in a stupid jumper.
Jumper.
I don't understand why he's got so much of a presence. And I mean, fair enough, because he was one random guy who worked in the original Jurassic Park. Why is he the one that's got everything? But also, he's the one that brings out all the locusts, and he allegedly fixes them by the end. I'm like, I don't believe that.
But it's
you
kind
of
doing
it like that.
What, as we mentioned, that Disney does, where they have a villain, and then they don't know what to do with it, so they just make it a good guy again. It's like, he's released locusts, but now he's realised the error of his ways, so he makes another locust that is capable of just wiping out the other locusts to stop them being bad.
Mm-hmm.
And,
I don't believe that. Like even like the ending bit is so sudden, and I hate the fact that I mean, look, I don't need the final shot to be utterly iconic.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. I don't need it. But if this is going to be the end of the franchise, which it should have been, you should end it on a high note. You literally end it on a rip-off of the very first shot of the Lion King. It's literally the Lion King. And then it cuts to the credits. I'm like,
prehistoric Lion King.
I was like, what the hell is this? I'm like, again, you're teasing us with the next film, which should have been this one. And it could have actually been quite good. It could have actually been the best of the trilogy. But no, it's actually continued the whole thing of every single one is not as good as the previous. Dominion is the worst film in the franchise. If anything, it might actually, I think the rate might actually go down now I've talked about it in spoiler form.
Yep.
I think it might actually be worse than, well actually I don't think it's worse than Morbius. That's still the worst one I've seen all year.
No, that is...
But my God, does it get close. Because my God, this is $165 million and I want to know where the hell that budget went to beyond the CGI dinosaurs, which don't even look that impressive. Like, even the animatronic of the Giganotosaurus occasionally looks quite good, but it goes back to more like the criticisms of the Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park 3, which I personally don't side with that, but where it feels more mechanical. There's no life in it.
Yeah.
Like, all the animatronics in this do not feel like dinosaurs. They feel like puppets.
Yeah.
Entirely. And it's just...
I tell you what, something as a highlight, I always liked the sound design of the dinos. I thought the dino sound design was good.
I can't remember anything outside of the Velociraptor and the T-Rex.
It's
like, especially in this one.
with the Giga, like the sort of like the little...
Well, maybe not that, because it isn't a future predator from Primeval, but you know.
But yeah, I mean,
I actually would have preferred that.
but really the only thing I would say is a highlight is the trio, the Giga, and the Freddy Krueger dinosaur that is just very strangely placed throughout the film, which just makes very little sense whatsoever, especially in that ending. I mean, that ending just pissed me off beyond belief.
The Freddy Kruegersaurus rat.
Freddy Kruegersaurus rar. Yes.
I don't know which is funnier, that or Blindosaurus. One of those.
Blindosaurus.
Or do you think he saw us?
You know, maybe I wonder if they did that and made that a thing of deliberate... Like, obviously with Timmy in the first Jurassic Park saying, "Do you think you saw us?" the whole joke. I wonder if they did that deliberately.
Oh, Christ, yeah, he does actually make that.
I wonder if they did that deliberately.
To be honest, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's clever. It's a clever reference. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not a clever... It's not even a reference. It's just a joke that everyone's made for years.
Got to be said, I had a little chuckle at the... when Alan is arguing with one of the characters about the safety procedures, and it's like, well, you know, the fence is at Jurassic Park. And then Alan's like, oh, yes, like, I'm aware.
I'm aware of that. Yeah. Also, can we actually just maintain, just the scene that wasn't needed was the moment when he's arguing with the bloody barista about coffee. Speaking of someone who's made plenty of coffees,
do you know who
that is so
that
cringy,
dude
but
is?
Also pretty accurate.
That dude is from the Ribena advert.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I don't watch much TV. I don't know what the hell you're on about now.
I call this one Purple Rhapsody. He's from that advert. I thought, oh my God. Why?
Suddenly I'm really glad I brought out 2 different bowls of rum.
Do you know, it's just
I didn't even bring this much alcohol to us talking about freaking Morbius.
And Morbius was a
challenge. Why is this the one that needed more alcohol?
Because we love dinosaurs, and quite frankly, the filmmakers have just shat on our bloody expectations of a good dinosaur movie. They've just basically stuck... That Dinosaurus, the Blindosaurus, or the Ostrich Blindosaurus Freddy Krueger Knifehandsaurus, that is basically just a middle long claw to the entirety of Jurassic Park and its legacy. It's just a giant F you.
Literally.
It feels like
yeah,
some stupid kid movie towards the end with a bunch of dinosaurs clashing for no reason whatsoever. And look at the Giga fight. The whole T-Rex becoming the hero annoyed me to death. The conveniently placed Blindosaurus just coincidentally sticks its claws out at the right time so that it can impale the dinosaur in the neck. How very, very convenient. And I love it how, like, they don't even, like, feast on it or anything. The T-Rex just nudges it. It's like, take that. I have beaten you, sir. Take that. No. I think a rewatch is going to be very interesting. And as I said, I'm going to revisit the trilogy. And Fallen Kingdom is probably going to skyrocket.
I will only rewatch this. I don't even think I'm even going to rewatch it, to be honest. I don't think I can. I think if I do, the rating is going to go... I'm not going to get anything out of it. I think as well, it's the fact that it's so long. It's 2.5 hours, and it feckin' feels like it. That being said, I didn't look at my watch when I watched it in the cinema, but that's also because I don't tend to do that in the cinema anyway, especially because I've got a smartwatch, so it kind of like lights up the entire room. It's just, there's nothing memorable beyond it being memorably terrible.
Yep.
And I think that's the best thing I can use to describe it. Again, because now we can do spoilers, which we have done. If you didn't figure that out already, idiots. Obviously, we highly recommend you watch this film.
No.
Psych. No, we don't.
Unless you want to be horribly disappointed. I mean, for those of you who liked it, good for you. I really wanted to like it, and I couldn't. Because
I've actually seen...
It just took the joy out of Jurassic Park and just gave me something that was equally just terrible.
I have read quite a few reviews of people that did actually really like the film. Mm-hmm. And you know what it is? I mean, I say this every single time, especially when it comes to a film that's been pretty much critically panned across the board. If you enjoyed it, we're not here to take that away from you. In fact, I'm always jealous of films that I find terrible, that people actually like something, and what exactly did they find? And even when I read it and I'm seeing them, I'm like, I can see a bit of why you like it. I mean, you know, because there's plenty of films that I think are great that others don't.
Van Helsing.
Like even bloody... I was actually just going to reference that one. I was also going to actually reference Halloween Kills because I got a critical panning.
Don't even get
but then
me
again,
started
all the Halloween
with those critics.
Then again, Halloween never got like really good reviews.
The only one that ever did was the 78 one. And I think that was one of the highest rated films of all time at 96%. Oh, yeah. The other ones, the only other one that got anything of a good rating was Halloween H2O, and that is 50-something%. Every other one is below. Ouch. I think Halloween 2 was around 30%, Halloween 4 was 20s, 5 beyond sort of low 10s, 6 is under 10 at some point, I think that's like 9. 9%. Resurrection, Resurrection, I can totally see why that is low, because it is just shit.
I really love how you're so much of a fanatic for Halloween that you know, to a point, the bloody Rotten Tomatoes scores of us. That is a different level of stuff.
Well, the 2018 one is 70 something.
71.
71. Yeah.
Ooh, I didn't say that. I didn't know that. I mean, it could be 71. I don't know.
And Kills is 39% the last time I checked.
It's pretty fucking low.
But it's so petty. It annoys me.
Yeah, well, this thing, I mean, like, some films don't work for critics. That's fine.
No.
You know.
But I think generally,
at this rate, we are basically critics,
and not,
or at least I am.
I think,
I swear to God,
critics just generally don't like slasher films. I think that is the thing. Like, they'll watch the first one.
Well, you know, I mean, like, even I didn't,
and give it like a score.
I mean, I didn't until bloody.
But sequels, they don't care for. They don't care for. I mean, even Scream. The first two, I think they liked, but I think 3 and 4 they just absolutely despised. They loved the 5 Scream film, or Scream 5, or Scream, whichever title.
5 Cream.
5 Cream. Ugh.
5 Cream. Ugh. We went on an absolute tangent there, but yes, that is our thoughts on Jurassic World Dominion in spoiler fashion. We are probably never going to talk about this film again. We might talk about it at the beginning of next year when we do 2022 in review. As I've now decided, we're going to do every single year. I've already decided on certain films that are going to be appearing in that. That's going to be a hot take and a half at the beginning of 2023.
That's not even going to be a hot take. That's going to be a molten take.
Well, I mean, I doubt Jurassic World's going to be in that, but who knows? But yes, that's our thoughts on that. Thank you very much for listening. If you have been listening / watching, depending on what you listen to, if it's YouTube or Spotify or Google Podcasts, I might try and get this onto other podcasty related things. I quite like to try and branch it out a bit. So next week we're going to be talking about spoilers for Obi-Wan Kenobi. Final episode's out on next Wednesday. As Dan has said, it might be a feature-length thing. I had no idea.
Again, it's rumour, but I don't know. I mean, considering the mini-series we had for Star Wars and stuff so far with Mandalorian, don't think the last episode were, like, horribly, horribly long. I don't think they were.
But yes, we'll be talking about that. So look forward to that next week. As I say, thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you again next week. Take care, everyone, and goodbye.